They just need to see it, and all's better with the world.
I
Just
do
need
like
to
to.
view the
I like to
whiteboard.
tease them a little bit, though.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
It scares me.
here it is. I'm just gonna lick it. If I get too blasphemous, let me know. All right. Hey, everybody, we are live.
Woo!
All right.
Yeah.
And today, well, okay, kind of, I can't even say that like special guest of honor would be the normal host because it is his post birthday stream.
Should we sing
Yeah.
happy birthday?
Oh, yeah, that would be great. We have
Oh
to
my
sing it
God.
badly, though.
If you're doing it over video conference via a streaming application, it's not possible to do it well.
You underestimate
I know,
my singing abilities.
I
mean, you should at least get the Titan
you guys
Uranus
were in
treatment.
choir, weren't you?
No, I'm the worst singer ever.
I feel confident I could best you in that role, Maya. I have no discernible musical ability. So.
All right. Hey,
Also-
hey, Peter, I'm game if you are. You want to sing happy birthday?
All right, let's go for it.
All right. Me. Let's see if we can do this without my stream getting taken down. All right.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tapioca Weasel. Happy birthday to you.
Why?
Nailed it!
And may I have many more.
And many more.
My grandfather would always say that.
Now, do we have to do the how old are you now?
I am 32. I'm 32
Oh my God.
as of last week.
Baby.
Myself and Carl Sagan share the same birthday. Pretty awesome. Very on brand. He had
True.
tons of pet weasels. Weasel breeder. Yeah. Anyway.
I think my singing voice might be against TOS. They're like updating it as we speak.
Wait,
Yeah, it's in public domain now. Although that's within the last 5 years. There was a huge case about it because
I remember the huge case. I just couldn't remember how they weighed in on it.
Finally, they were like, "No, this is stupid. This is ridiculous. What is wrong with you? Happy birthday is public domain. Get out of everybody's business."
All
I'm
right.
surprised that was even a dispute. I had no idea.
You know, people with money like having more money. So, you know, when money is a thing, then yeah. But I'm sorry, Peter, do you want to talk about who you are, what you do?
Yeah. So my name is obviously Peter. I am a Christian. I'm a young earth creationist. So I have a YouTube channel where I talk about science and matters mostly related to human origins, because that's my area of interest, if you can't tell looking behind me. And I also write for a blog called the New Creation Blog. So, yeah.
I just want to say, I posted Peter's links to his streams in the side chat. I can endorse absolutely every single piece of content that he has released in the last 6 months. Isn't that right, Peter?
Yeah, all that content.
Because as far as I know, the only bit of content was a live stream with me. So
Yeah, content is coming soon. I'm going to be releasing videos starting next year. But
So what do your videos focus on?
mostly I talk about various perspectives about fossil humans. So I look at basically different species of humans that lived in the past, what we can know about them from their bones. I like studying anatomy, how we can tell from their behavior, and how they're related to us. And then I also like to talk about Australopithecines, which are widely believed to be the ancestors to humans, like the famous Lucy fossil. And kind of
Fossils.
there's some misconceptions that creationists have about Australopithecines, and I often address those as well.
A little bit. So do you believe in evolution?
What do you mean by evolution, I guess? I guess like
you and I would. Okay, so again,
It's an
like I
excellent
said,
question.
I mean,
Actually,
it's not that hard
to
of a
Peter.
question. I
I
mean,
mean,
okay. So
if we
again,
define
I was
evolution in terms
so
of a change
I
in allele frequencies in the population over time, which is how it's defined scientifically, I agree.
right.
The
Okay.
place where I don't agree is universal common ancestry. So I don't believe that all life forms go back to a common ancestor.
All
Uh,
right.
yeah.
So like I said, I was born and raised Catholic. I'm no longer a practicing Catholic. Have not been since I was graduated and when I was 18 years old, which is like half my life ago. Um, but you know, my thoughts really haven't changed on anything scientific.
Hmm.
Um, I was taught evolution by nuns.
Sure.
Um, and they told me that there were young earth creationists out there, and we were just like, why? And they were like, I don't know, it's weird, right? So you're
Yeah, I
actually
mean,
the first one I've actually talked to.
especially in Catholicism, young Earth creationism is very much a minority.
Yes,
Among
yes.
Protestantism, young Earth
I
creationism is still losing
it, de-
popularity, but
it
it is
depends on
more
the
common.
area. Yeah, more common in the
it
south
also
than the
depends on
north.
what you count as a young Earth creationist. I believe I remember being in a very strange spot where I believed that the flood of Noah happened when I was in 7th grade, but I thought it was absurd that dinosaurs were on it. And like that's a strange place to be in. And I basically stopped being a young Earth creationist because it wasn't a thing that was ever important in my church.
Hmm.
As I kind of learned more science, it there was no reason like not to. It didn't seem to be a fundamental core issue
Hmm.
to the things that mattered, which were rough and problematic for me in all of their own ways. I have a lot of trauma, frankly, from
Hmm.
worries about hell, but that
Oh
I did not
yeah,
expect to go there. Wow.
Yeah, I
yeah. We
mean,
don't have to go there, but I mean,
in
just to get the elephant out of the room really quick is not why not a common ancestry? Is it like God?
well, I believe that God created organisms according to their kinds, so there are multiple different groups of creatures, and that
Mhm.
within those groups they would change over time by the process that we would call evolution and diversify into new species. But I don't think that all life goes back to a common ancestor. And so a
Okay.
lot of my work focuses on baraminology, which is ways of understanding how from a young earth creationist perspective, can we determine what creatures are related and which aren't? Right?
So
How can we actually
Audio
draw
test,
that
audio
line?
test.
So what you're
Sorry.
saying is there was an ape kind or a primate kind, or can you do
Yeah.
for me what Kent Hovind will not and define I'm not asking you to speak for all white young earth creationists everywhere, just your personal definition of a kind.
Yeah. A kind is a group of organisms which basically share morphological traits and are continuous with each other in terms of morphology, meaning that there are no gaps in between them in terms of morphology. And they
Hmm.
all share, basically, they all come from these ancestral members of this same original group of organisms that God made on the original days of creation. So basically, God makes these original organisms,
And then
and
they branch out.
and then they branch
So
out over time. Yes.
okay, so
Hmm.
God
Is my
made like
audio
a
volume
wolf
better?
kind, and then we get like foxes and dogs and things like that, or
Yes. So in terms of where exactly the level of the kind is, that varies a bit. There's
okay.
places in which we think the kind is at the level of the genus. A lot of times
Mhm.
it seems to be at the level of the family, but there's places where it's at the superfamily. So
Yeah, and
it
that's
can
why
vary a
I've
bit.
always been kind of questioning a kind because I'm
Hmm.
just like, what are we doing? But
Well,
I
well,
actually will give you a pass there because
What?
we
well.
make them up. So
Exactly.
it
Yeah.
can, yeah.
Hmm. And you're right that the kind, we shouldn't expect a kind to correlate to one specific type of classification that we use, because we're using a completely different system to classify them in
Right,
Linnaean
right.
taxonomy.
Yeah, and depending
Yeah.
on what you're, I mean, yeah, what you're looking at, and you're talking about animals or plants, and the gloves are off. I'll
Yep.
give you that. I'll give you that. I will go on record as saying, I actually thought it was as a Catholic, I thought it was beautiful that God would have made one thing and that we all branched out. And for me, evolution is how God did it. And I like that we were all connected to one common thing. And I thought, as a Christian, I thought that was beautiful. So it's a bad science show. I do to go with the science. And it wasn't divorced from my religion when I was a practicing Christian. So not saying that anyone anywhere should substitute their judgment for my own. But since we're talking about people and their beliefs, I'm just going to put mine out there too, since it's my channel.
Awesome.
All right. So, Doc, I'm sorry. Peter, would you like to say anything else before we get into the video?
Let's go for it.
People have told me that my audio is very quiet. Does it sound?
It's better now.
Oh, yeah. Chat, are we happy?
I have tried to fix it, but I tried Maya earlier. I did a whole thing where, anyway.
All right. Well, you know what? It's our chat. So if they don't like
they're
your
probably
volume,
just trolling me anyway.
They will let us know.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about what you found. Your critics have said that you disengaged somewhat and that, as a whistleblower, you've shied away from public debate about what you found. So why do you agree to sit down and talk about this now publicly?
Well, frankly, I think the criticism's fair. If I am a whistleblower, then I...
By the way, I don't think we ever introduced the video. It has been sitting there this whole time.
Oh, yeah. What's going on?
So, yeah, people have been able to read it. But we're going to start out with something short and sweet about mermaids, because that's a real thing.
Well, let's talk about what you found. Your critics have said that you've disengaged somewhat and that, as a whistleblower, you've shied away from public debate about what you found. So why do you agree to sit down and talk about this now publicly?
Well, frankly, I think the criticism's fair. If I am a whistleblower, then I don't think I'm a very good one.
Well, you did get the whole world talking about mermaids and what the government knows about them.
Right, but we didn't achieve what we'd hoped to achieve in coming forward. Our goal in exposing the Navy's activities was to stop their sonar testing, and that didn't happen. The sonar testing is still proceeding.
You say the Navy is looking to expand the sonar program. How?
So wait, what are they trying to do?
The current naval...
Maybe I'd missed this one.
From what I understood, they're campaigning to stop sonar testing in the ocean because they think they're going to kill mermaids who are apparently endangered or something.
Yeah, which is funny because there are tons of animals that loud sonar equipment probably messes with that are real.
Yeah, no, I was thinking I was missing something. I'm like, are we talking about like whales? No.
Apparently these humans or like these humanoid creatures actually have echolocation. I'm assuming that's how sonar messes with whales and stuff like that, is because they're using echolocation.
It might also just deafen them. I mean, whales whales do not use echolocation, right? Dolphins do, but...
Well, I was using dolphins as a sort of whale, because they're cetaceans broadly.
Yeah, okay. But like a blue whale does not echolocate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's still, I think, affected because it uses like infrasound, which is like the super low frequency sound, which propagates very efficiently over very, very, very long distances. Elephants use the same thing, in entirely different mediums. But yeah, I think what happened is they were like, nobody's listening to us. What if we talk about mermaids?
Science communication. Science communication just generally is horrific, so I would not be surprised if that was their way to get things done.
Which begins next year will affect 33 million marine mammals over the next 5 years. And that's the Navy's own estimates.
And the mermaids?
Look, all 6 scientists...
Like, you can't keep a straight face. You got discount. Our discount Zach Galifianakis can't keep a straight face here.
To analyze the remains, myself included, all of us believe that this was a new species that had been impacted. And just like any other marine mammal, it's going to be impacted by the Navy sonar testing too.
Let's talk.
Is that a mermaid?
Those pictures, look at that. There's
like
those are the hips right there, and they don't touch in the middle. So it's kind of like they got like vestigial hips, except they're still there mostly.
Yeah. And they probably use them for baby making. That's what I learned from Kent Hovind. And vestigial whale hips. Is he not in authority?
marine mammal, it's going to be impacted by the Navy sonar testing too.
Let's talk about those remains. These are the remains that were seized by the South African authorities. And I was so taken by the footage originally that I'd like people to see it again, because this is a scan of the skull of the creature that you found. And this scan was not seized. This is what we're looking at right here. You and your team claimed famously, infamously now, that not only was it a mermaid, but that this creature is actually part of our own family tree, and that human beings...
What? Is
So,
I don't think I brought enough wine for this.
so we've got a marine we've got a marine primate here, right?
Okay.
It may be a cartoon character from the video game series like Silent Hill. Just looking at it, it's horrifying, not gonna lie. But I have a weak stomach, so I don't know.
Do you think
What do you
it's
guys think?
marine or is it aquatic?
I couldn't tell you the difference.
I feel like they're trying to
Marine means saltwater, right? It means like open, like ocean. Okay.
Yeah, aquatic is freshwater. But it feels like they're claiming it's saltwater, which there would seem to have to be like additional adaptations that would make it even harder for a primate to go into saltwater.
Yeah, but I mean, there's like 5 animals. I mean, there's a lot more than 5, I'm sure, that can just like switch between them like without any issues. So therefore, you know that
Therefore,
kind of
humans can.
environmental yeah, exactly. And they're mermaids.
And this scan was not seized. This is what we're looking at right here. You and your
I loved how he called this footage earlier too.
I know, right?
It's a bold way of characterizing it.
team claimed famously, infamously now, that not only was it a mermaid, but that this creature is actually part of our own family tree, and that human beings were once becoming like mermaids ourselves?
Right, you're talking about the aquatic ape theory.
Help me understand this aquatic ape theory. The idea that
Okay.
humans
Oh,
were once
for
becoming
fuck's
marine
sake.
mammals.
The thing here is that aquatic ape theory is not the same as mermaids. Like, he is majorly conflating two completely different things.
I really
Yeah.
need vodka.
Because like he's showing a mermaid. He's showing like a tail that has a flipper on it. Do you see that earlier? Aquatic ape theory is literally the idea that primates began to walk upright on their hind legs in the water. Like, that is completely the opposite of turning your hind legs into a tail with a fluke.
Well, apparently, according to neo-Nazis, all white people are mermaids?
I don't talk with any neo-Nazis, so I wouldn't know.
Me either.
Sorry, aquatic ape theory is very popular.
Is it?
Really?
Yeah.
Is it act? I
had
didn't
no
know
idea.
that.
Are you really
I legitimately
serious?
didn't know. I'm Maya. Look at me.
Look,
Do I
look,
seem
look.
like the kind of guy who would hang out a lot with neo-Nazis and not become one? Probably not. Like probably if I ended up in that cesspit, I'd get flushed down the drain like all of the
I
rest
keep
of
telling
them.
people. I'm like, guys, we
You
gotta
get
rein him
flushed
in.
down the
He's
drain
straying
into
too
the
far.
ocean, and then you grow flippers.
No, yeah. So the thing is, yeah, you know, white people, the pristine, like, you know, God's children, and then there's the rest of us assholes who don't have the white skin, so we're not close to the God. Maybe you've heard, like, I know in Mormon church, yeah, you will know God's children because He has blessed them with the white skin, and then the darker skinned people are like the ones destined for hell, or I don't know, some random nonsense Mormon crap.
That's what happens when you write fan fiction.
Right, and incorporate it into your religion. No, yeah, with the aquatic ape, yeah. So it's a way of making white people, you know, well, you guys came out of the ocean and you developed this whole other different way. The rest of us are just talking monkeys, and that's why we're so fucking stupid and don't deserve to live. You know, like a Nazi.
This was a lot darker than I was thinking it was then.
No, I'm going to remind everybody. Anytime I hear aquatic ape, I'm bringing up Nazis, and not just because
I didn't know that. I genuinely did not know that.
It is legit true. And actually,
Okay,
Erica,
learning things every
Erica
day.
mentions it in her Robert Seffer video.
Oh, okay, Robert Seffer, yeah.
Legit Nazi. But like he
yeah.
subscribes to this whole thing.
Well, that's because he's a psychopath narcissist who thinks
I'm
he's
sorry,
a
Peter. I'm
genius.
assuming you haven't been living under a rock and know who Guts It Given is.
Oh, yeah.
He knows
Since
Guts
you guys
Given.
are like seem to have the
They've-
same interest.
Yes. Yeah, we've corresponded.
They've been on stream before.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I just don't want to like start talking about stuff that he doesn't know what I'm talking about.
No.
Why I'm going down
I
my
don't-
Nazi
I'm
diatribe.
not
For
sure-
anybody who
I
didn't
mean-
know, if somebody talks to you about aquatic ape, just punch him in the face because that's what you do to Nazis.
Well, I see.
What? Am I wrong?
Robert Seffer. No, I didn't know. I legit because Robert
I'm
Seffer
here to
says
educate.
a lot of things,
He
I have
does.
watched all of Erica's videos on Robert Seffer because he's a trash human being. He's a mean, cruel person, in so many different ways, and so I mostly because she's also made a video about aquatic ape, and it didn't spend most of its time on Robert Seffer. There is one particular
it's about
academic who is
yeah.
the most associated with it, and I don't believe that woman. I don't have any reason other than what I just learned from you to believe that woman is a racist, but like who knows? I don't know.
Which, like, how does that even make sense in any evolutionary scenario? Like,
Right.
are you saying that the idea is that mermaids evolved into white people and then like other people?
Look, see, I'm not making this up. There are people who know that, like me. There's people like me who know that Mormons are. I'm not going to say all Mormons are racist.
No,
but
white and
they do have.
No, I don't think either of us were disputing that
Okay.
White supremacy is baked into Mormonism. Mormonism is an explicitly, in my opinion, it is an explicitly white supremacist movement. I don't think that was the primary motivation. You don't have to have that be the primary motivation for it to be a big part of it.
No, and I'm sorry to cut you off. I honestly do apologize. I blame the ADHD. But yeah, when Erica was actually talking about like the theory behind it, so that you would know how fucking stupid it is and why you shouldn't listen to Nazis, because they only believe in stupid shit.
So.
But yeah, again, she did leave that part alone out of her video, which is fair. I mean,
Terms of service. Yeah, she's got a job to do.
Yeah.
But me being a target of Nazis, I like to know how they think, so I can avoid certain situations and know what's happening when I see questionable legislation. So, yeah. Moving on. Back to
There
Nazi
are a number
mermaids.
of animals that have made this transition before. This is the transition from terrestrial to marine.
Oh my
That's
God.
established science.
But there are quite a few scientists who reject.
Where are these graphics from?
I love, these other creatures went into the ocean, therefore humans did. Infallible logic there.
Right? Because we're basically manatees that don't have webbing.
Reject the aquatic ape theory. They say that the human body.
I'm pretty sure that was Voldemort. Hold on. Right?
Science.
But there are quite a few scientists who reject the
That's Voldemort. I'm just saying.
aquatic ape theory. They say that the human body was never evolving, never adapting to a marine environment.
Look, hold out your hand. Spread your fingers. See this webbing here?
Oh, for
Other
fuck's
apes don't have that.
sake.
Chimpanzees.
Do you see the webbing? I don't... what webbing?
Did you know that like all amniotes have webbed fingers as zygotes?
That is the bare minimum of webbing.
And then all that webbing basically just degrades away when they're born.
Yep.
In most cases, except if they're adapted to aquatic life.
Wait, so are you saying that I can't remember what the saying is. It's something like ontogeny
Recapitulates phylogeny?
Is that, yeah, there we go. Those are words. I don't know what that means. But I know it's not true, but it was an idea that people thought. Right? Or
Yeah.
is it true?
Hey,
I can't
Peter, is
remember.
this in your wheelhouse? Do you,
Oh, he knows
Yeah.
all about bipedality.
I mean, yeah, so the current
I
idea
can
about...
riff, but if you know what you're doing.
The current idea about how bipedality evolved from an evolutionary perspective is that there were creatures who were walking upright, basically either in the trees or they had some reason to come onto the ground to do that. So there are a couple different hypotheses, but basically the very earliest one that we know of is Sahelanthropus. And we see that there's some rearrangement of how the spine enters the skull. So it appears they were beginning to stand upright on their hind legs, but it wasn't really until later on that we see them become fully adapted to bipedality. So like Lucy and other Australopithecines finally were better adapted to bipedality about 4 million years later is when they first appear according to the evolutionary timeline. And by then they actually have feet that have like a big toe that's in line, so they're not grasping stuff with their feet. And so it took about 4 million years, it is believed, for them to change from climbing the trees to walking down on the ground.
All right. Yeah. And there's yeah, I never even know where to go with that because there's like 3 competing theories on bipedality, aren't there?
Yeah, I mean, because there's one idea that says, okay, well maybe they were standing upright in the trees, and then that allows them to like reach leaves up above. Then there's also
Right.
like the savanna hypothesis, which is
Right.
that forests began to disappear as climate change happened, and therefore they were stuck in savanna environments and needed to walk around more. Those are kind of the 2 main ones. But the interesting thing here is that now we have fossils of bipedal apes that go back before the forest started to shrink. So that suggests that the savanna hypothesis isn't correct and that they were starting to walk upright already before savannas started to spread over Africa from an evolutionary perspective.
I like him. He's smart.
I'm just. Yes.
All right, back to Nazi mermaids.
I linked a video in chat from Mini Minuteman about Sahelanthropus chidensis, and it's great because Mini Minuteman is on it. Awesome.
Not my video?
Not well. I couldn't. That's actually a totally reasonable criticism.
I keep
because
telling
was like,
people he is a horrible friend.
I am. I'm a bad friend.
Horrible.
No, I'm just kidding. The only video I have about Sahelanthropus is about this femur that they found, and it's not known
it's like-
whether the femur actually goes with the body or not. And the femur has like both the top and the bottom broken off, so there's not a lot we can actually learn from it. But yeah,
One day, maybe.
Femurs are fake anyway. They're all fake.
Z's, gorillas, orangutans, they don't have fingers like that. They don't have the webbing. Why do we have it? Interesting.
Is that true?
no, it's not
Wait,
true.
hold on. Did you just pull out a random femur? Okay, we got Ted Bundy on our stream tonight. I didn't realize that. We might need to call somebody. Like all the skulls in the background. I thought okay, well, you know, there's a.
Whoa, do that again.
Would you look at that?
Wait, what did
so-
you have?
Oh,
Was
I
that
had,
a-
I had a femur. This is a femur.
Holy
It's
shit.
it's your
So I
thigh
said
bone.
femurs are
Yeah.
fake. And he just pulls out a femur.
I know, right?
From
Just
the
like
bag
here.
at
Yeah.
his feet.
Ta-da!
You know, it's that. You know what that feels like? It's like when I'm talking with atheists and religious people, and they mention the Bible, and I'm like, well, let me check that, and then I just grab the Bible without moving from my chair, and a lot of religious people don't have one in reach.
No,
I'm not saying that's true of you, but yeah.
Well, when I'm at
Now I have to check all my drawers.
I know. No, I don't. I just open up my browser.
Yeah, you don't need
It's
one.
always right there.
That's
But oddly-
that's also a good point is you don't need one. You have the internet.
No. But you know what I do have here, in my wallet is my Constitution.
Oh,
Where do you keep yours?
That's a good question. Actually,
You know what I just got today? Let me grab it.
I should have one here.
Constitution side check.
I'm not joking. I normally do have one on my thing, but
I just derailed
it
my
was one of
entire
those things-
stream. Guys, get back here.
to be fair,
What is this? Is that a Constitution?
No, this
Oh,
is
it's the
the
Holy
entire
Bible.
timeline of the Old Testament.
Of the Old
Okay, well,
Testament. All right, well,
We
where's
should invite
Lucy?
you back on for a more
No,
adversarial
Show me on
show
the
about
timeline
just
where
that.
Lucy appears.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Let me find this. So let's see. Where is the flood on here? Oh, there it is. So,
By the way, Peter is currently an undergraduate student. If he wants to say more, he can.
all known hominin fossils appear in layers that most creationists believe to be post-flood, which means that it has to happen somewhere after 2300 BC in a young Earth creationist time frame. So somewhere after the flood and before the time of Abraham, basically.
Okay. But she's like, what, 3 million years old?
Yeah, from a conventional perspective.
Okay. You're not allowed to put that on a test, though.
I don't think he has problem passing his classes.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
human evolution
he's
right
very
now.
Smart. I like him. I don't know. I remember being a Christian and like stuff like that. Things that like really, I almost dropped out of logic because my teacher opened up the very first day of the very first class. You cannot prove a God; it therefore doesn't exist.
What? Are you,
Yeah.
like, actually? Wait, hold on. Wait, that's a meme that every atheist I've ever met is like,
Yeah.
no college professor ever. You actually had a college professor that did that.
He went to church more frequently than I did, but it was just like, don't bring this bullshit here. This is a class for logic. Yeah,
On the
but
first
yeah,
day
it
of
actually
my-
did happen.
On the first day of my chemistry class, my professor went on this tirade about science being testable, and he just was calling Ken Ham an idiot. And
Well,
yeah,
okay.
Oh, see, well, that's just facts and logic, though.
That's
No, I mean, he just wanted to. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to explain the logic. The logic class. It wasn't. It was 102. I'm sorry, but it was just like people. I guess he was just tired of people bringing bad religious
Yeah, I get it.
arguments into the class.
I get
and-
it, but
Yeah, it was.
is that
Yeah, yeah, very
Like-
stark.
you just like made the point that God's not dead is trying to make?
This no, I mean, kind of.
And
Except he wasn't an atheist. I'm
I
telling you,
know.
like,
I'm so perplexed.
Right.
But
Why,
I know.
why
I
can we
went to
hold our
God's
breath
not
longer than
dead.
any other
You,
terrestrial
yeah,
right.
exactly.
animal, even longer than some marine mammals? Why evolve that ability unless to use it? Even the fact that we walk upright, how did that start? There are some scientists who believe that it may have been from wading in water looking for food.
You brought a clip that speaks to this, which is really
Okay.
striking. Can you tell us?
have you ever tried walking in water? It happens to be like very difficult, and there's reasons why a lot of animals like us, in terms of body shape, do not wade because it's very energetically costly. And Lucy did not have as strong like leg musculature as we do, meaning that it would have even been more difficult for her to walk in water. And they had really wide hips, meaning that they would have been even less streamlined than we are. So, no, that they weren't walking in water habitually.
But have you considered? But they were though,
Ooh, I don't know if I can deal with that.
right? Exactly. Sometimes you just got to look it full in the face and be like, I'm going to ignore every rational point that was just made. It's a great time.
What this is?
So these are baboons, and you'll notice, of course, that they're standing, walking bipedally, walking on two legs.
I love the way they move their arms. They're so adorable, right? They're like, I'm just walking. Oh, it's cold. It's so cold.
And that only happens for sustained periods of time when in water. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if you're standing upright, you've got your head above water.
And that's usually a pretty good thing, having your head above water.
Right. And some scientists have wondered if walking upright is one of the traits that our body still bears from when our ancestors spent more time in and around water.
So is the interviewer
Fascinating.
pushing back on him? Because
No.
the whole
He seems to be egging him on.
yeah, but the idea of mermaids means that their head has to be underwater.
Well, he
Right.
doesn't. He doesn't think that far ahead.
I guess not.
Yeah, no. I mean, if they thought that far ahead,
They wouldn't have
probably
even had
wouldn't-
him on.
This is exactly right. Like when your argument defeats itself and you're able to realize that, you don't generally make it.
This is truly fascinating.
Unless you're really just pulling it straight out of your ass and not really listening to the words coming out of your mouth, which,
It's possible.
to be fair, yeah, right, yeah, it's a thing that this is America,
History.
and we're just done, just done.
I mean, that's
I don't know
fair,
about
though.
you, but I'm convinced.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
We've got
You
webbing
know,
on our fingers, clearly.
yeah,
Okay.
and digital videos of something that looked like a skull and was totally a mermaid because he said it was.
And
that's
by
how
the
that
way,
works.
earlier on, he claimed that other apes have less webbing on their fingers than we do, and that is not true. There's
I
like
was
no
asking
difference in
about that.
webbing.
Yeah,
And-
no, I was gonna ask, like,
Was anything true?
Fair point.
was anything true? Hold on. No, I don't think so.
Now, there are actually apes which have greater frequencies of webbing on their fingers because certain colonies of gorillas are really inbred, and as a result, they have a genetic defect which makes a lot of them get born with webbing on their fingers and toes.
Well,
Oh, right.
that's
I hear
actually
that's
just
like the most common birth defect. I could be wrong.
fused
Sure,
fingers.
it could be.
I don't know if would it be webbed fingers or fused fingers, or are they the same thing in that?
No, those are different.
Yeah, I would think so, but
Yeah.
all right. So
Let's do the other video.
you want to do the other video? We want to do this one?
Night's Young. Yeah, because it's not that long, right? It's 7
Yeah, no,
minutes.
we got, and we have this one, and we also have. There was one.
Oh yeah, the blasphemers video.
No,
we
it
can do that
wasn't,
last,
but
and then
there
we'll
was-
I'll go. We'll do an
Well, there were-
intermission. I'll go get the mud, and
There were two shorter ones. And I have one of them pulled up, which is this one, which we can. By the way, for the record, the rest of the show, chat, is our good friend Rodger.
Yay!
Woo, Rodger!
Roger.
Master of intellect.
I don't know if there's anyone who I have ever known that is as consistently wrong as Rodger.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah.
I gotta say, I'm
really
not sure
good at it.
I'm not sure I would say he's even wrong. He's not even wrong sometimes, at least on the physics stuff.
It's just wholly fabricated.
Just complete self-contradictory nonsense just spawned from the depths of his addled mind. I
Keister.
guess. I don't know. Yeah, you know what? Looking at the guy, that's the correct word, yeah.
I want to apologize. This is my old camera, and it's not as good at the detail, but you can see pretty good what's going on. These are the kind of things.
For the record, we just started right in the middle of a sentence. Classic Rodger. He doesn't always do it, but he often does it. So we're just
I was
in the
just
middle
about
of a
to
sentence.
ask if you did that. Like, did you
No,
start?
I don't-
No.
No, oh, we can. Hold on.
No, I believe you.
now
I believe you.
We're back at the beginning.
No, I want to apologize.
Roger is just
This
talking
is
to
my-
himself.
Now I want to
You know-
apologize. Like, technically, that is the start of a sentence, but it's not the start of a thought.
No, was that you? I was talking to somebody the other day. Oh, my son. And he was just like, sometimes I'm in the middle of a conversation online, and I'll just think, man, I should have been, recording this. This is a great conversation. But I feel like Roger does this with himself.
Yeah. How often do you get me confused with your son, Maya?
I talk to people. It could be you. It could be my kid. Whatever.
Well, I mean, because I'm basically a child in swaddling clothes, which is a joke that I get to make and then point at Peter because he's 10 years younger than me.
old camera, and it's not as good at the detail, but you can see pretty good what's going on. These are the kind of things that are inside the human body, in our organs. You don't see them.
There's just pages of ink and text just inside our bodies, you guys. I don't know what we're going to do about it. I'm such a smart ass.
See, the organ is a big thing. Now, not only that, inside of all of this,
I don't know what that is. I thought this was a heart, but this looks like a kidney. What is going on here? What am I looking at?
I'm trying to figure out, are these like nephron tubules in the kidney, or like what is that? Because like the
You made
brown
those
thing
words
at the
up.
end looks like what?
I said you made those words up.
No, I didn't.
Oh, well.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
brown thing looks like it could be a kidney.
Right?
Maybe.
Stuff is extremely fine architecture in the electron microscope range.
So, Rodger likes to bring up electron microscopes with a high level of consistency. I'm pretty sure Rodger thinks that this pickle jar, this empty pickle jar, I think he thinks it might be an electron microscope. So, yeah.
I had the fortunate pleasure the other day of looking at Rodger's page on academia.net.
Whoa,
And
my God.
have
that
you looked at
exists?
that?
No,
Yes.
I didn't know that existed.
Wow, I was
What?
today
I
years
was-
old.
I was like, wow, this is a treasure trove. It
Oh
it
my
is
God.
crazy. Like, I found all sorts of spelling mistakes, and he's literally like bolding words and like writing them capitalized to like catch your attention rather. And yeah,
Oh my God, that's amazing.
But you can see how patterned.
You must lead us,
Everything is.
show us
And
the
this
way.
is what I show on the Earth, and then I show it down into the size it would be on an electron microscope. Okay, I've made this claim for years now that everything I can find is biological. And I'm saying this is part of some kind of a filtration system in some kind.
Okay, so he is talking about nephron tubules then, because nephron tubules are the things that like your blood flows through in your kidneys, and that's basically how it gets all of the excess stuff that you don't want out of your blood and puts it into your urine.
So
And that's
you're
what he's
that-
saying.
Is it? But is the image on screen nephron tubules?
No.
Or
This
the
is a
image on
canyon
screen-
now.
This is a satellite image of a canyon, right?
Yes, but he's claiming
Very
it's a,
different.
he's claiming it's a filtration system.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, right? Like the water, the stuff that you drop in at the top of the canyon is going to be of a different consistency than the stuff at the end of the canyon. I mean, it's still going to be water, but there's going to be different crap in it at the end. So, you know, bending over backwards, I'll give it to him.
You're
Because
generous.
that's what I do. Peter, you're on the show. I'm very generous.
Fair point.
Kind of an organ, and that's what you're seeing here. That's not just little runoffs and hills and valleys.
Yes, it is.
You see that? Look at how exactly patterned that is.
Exactly.
And all of these
I don't know even what he's referring to, but if he's referring to the fact that valleys look like valleys, you're not wrong.
Like it's not exactly patterned though. It's just all
little
random squiggles.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, what exactly? What like is there a grid that he sees that I don't? I don't.
Does he not understand how valleys are formed? Or how rivers
yeah.
work?
No, he absolutely does not understand any of that.
well, I mean, to be clear, there are very few physical phenomena that take more than one sentence to describe that I would have any confidence Rodger understands. And most of the ones that do take one sentence to describe, I would still have no confidence.
in here, those are not just sedimentation and runoff.
Yes, they are.
And look at the colors. These are transition.
Look at the colors.
Okay, I have a point. In filtration systems, it's a system, so like it goes around in a loop. Valleys do not form loops. Therefore, Rodger is wrong.
Oh, okay. So I just want to say, chat, clearly Peter here doesn't know what the water cycle is. Just saying. Just saying.
Oh, so it's three-dimensional then. The filtration.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
four-dimensional. It takes time, Peter. Come on. Don't you know what rain is?
So clearly the whole like maybe the rest of the the loop was up above, but it all got eroded away. So we're only seeing like part of it. The rest of it is either underground or it was up above and got eroded away.
Or it was magical and imaginary and powered by electrons and gluons. A whole thing that he goes into that we probably won't touch on tonight because even I've burnt out my ability to deal with Rodger's ideas of particle physics, which are exactly as painful as you think they would be.
Metals that cause these colors, and that is what you find in organ tissue.
Do
You see this? Why is
transmission
this white over?
metals cause those colors? Because that looks a lot like a rusty color.
Iron's a transition metal.
Yeah. So it's possible that's iron.
I mean, if it rust, well, that might not be true. Iron rust is made out of iron. A statement that added absolutely no information to the conversation.
Over here, and this is black and red over here. Look
That's
at these
what
little
shadows
swishes. That just didn't happen by accident. Look at that. This is, and look at this over here.
I
see
mean, I guess you're kind of right. It doesn't happen by accident. It's kind of like, where is the best and easiest way for water to flow?
Yeah.
And water just goes in that direction.
Exactly. But have you considered that maybe gravity is fake? And the Earth is flat?
Well, that's a possibility, I suppose.
It's not, though. It's not a possibility, Peter. And you know it's not a possibility. You know what shape the Earth is.
I do happen to know what shape the Earth is, yes. Okay, so maybe the Earth is like a giant eyeball, and then these are like the veins in your eyeball. You know how you can look at the veins and they're like all squiggly, and like the Earth is an eyeball, and these are like the veins in it.
Yeah, I'm so glad you answered that in a way that doesn't make me kick you out and like ban you from the chat forever. I always said I didn't want an echo chamber, but that doesn't mean I want flat earthers in it.
No, there's a difference between being an echo chamber and not understanding the basic obvious consequences about the world around us.
Yeah, I happen not to be a flat earther.
Yeah, and also I just want to say there are people, and maybe people will yell at me for saying this. There are people that equate. I think that young Earth creationism is obviously wrong. That's my opinion, because that.
Well, I mean,
it just
but did
seems
you see
obviously
Peter's
wrong.
timeline?
It is not. Well, okay, fine, but it is not as wrong as flat Earth. One of them has a completely unjustified view about the past and about the interpretation of data that relates to a model of the past, and one of them just thinks that planes in the southern hemisphere don't exist. They're not comparable, and when people bring it up, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I have to say that because it's like saying that 0.0001 and 0.801 are just as large as each other because they're really small. They're not. They're just not. That's not how numbers work. Sorry.
I'm obviously biased, but
yes.
I would like to make the point that I think there is a difference in terms of the sorts of way in which creationists go about making arguments versus flat earthers, because flat earthers are dealing with something that is so incredibly obvious that it needs to be guarded by governmental officials who are stopping them from looking at things. Whereas young Earth creationism does not by any necessity need to claim that there are any conspiracies out there or that people are trying to fake the data. Some people do, but I'm saying that's not a necessity of young Earth creationism, where it is a necessity of flat Earth.
Yeah. I mean, necessity, because like everything that we use is based on like satellites and actual science, and you just half
so
of our
speaking of
world
science,
just can't work without the Earth being round.
An important part of science is like testability and repeatability. And going back to Rodger here, I wonder why Rodger never like gives us any background information about anything he ever shows us? Because like we can't even look where this is. The
No.
video is so blurry. I can't even like look at what the coordinates are and find them.
No,
I
you would
bet-
just have to know where it is from looking at a map without lines and.
It might be doable. It might. Be
I mean,
doable.
which is, if he would back up just a little bit, I might have.
If I provided all of these to an image search algorithm, and
Oh,
went
yeah,
through it,
definitely.
we would be able to find it.
Sure.
But your point is still valid. There is no effort being. Well, actually, okay. So right now,
Oh,
imagery Dale, these are
Okay, yeah, you're right.
legible enough.
You can read them
at
now.
least on my
Yeah.
at least on my
yeah.
screen.
I can see it. I don't.
37 degrees, 20 minutes, and I think
42,
42 seconds, and then
44
44
in.
like microseconds. I don't know what.
Yeah,
How
44
big is a
north,
second?
and then
Do you know how big a
fuck.
second is?
no. I mean, I haven't had to do this since the 5th grade.
Okay, well, I'm not going to do it live.
Yeah, no.
That
mean-
just didn't happen by accident. Look at that.
I will give
does
him that it's like an actual place on Earth. I just
well,
don't believe.
I'm not
that
doubting it's an actual place, but my point
Right.
is like if we would actually want
I don't believe
to
it's
look
a
into
fossil.
this, he does like you would think that if he were trying to persuade people, he would want to give us like a link to like a pin placed on the Google Earth map so we could find it. But he's just not even going through the basic effort to allow people to look at what he's looking at.
Yeah, it's because he thinks it's as obvious as me doing this and being like, things fall down. Like, if I have to explain that things fall down, I'm not going to link you to a Wikipedia page. I'm just going to show you that things fall down. That's what he's operating at. He thinks it's that obvious because he has no idea what he's talking about.
I would love to actually look at like, okay, let's say this is a, you know, some sort of filtration system. How large would the organism have to be for its filtration system to be this large?
Right?
Oh, Sydney said that they want to look.
Yeah, let me see if I can. So I'm seeing 37, 24, 50, 54, 37, 24, 54, 58. But the thing is, that's 4 sets of numbers, and I'm only aware of how it makes sense for 3 sets of numbers. So
Right.
How is he displaying this? Is this like
Google
a
Earth.
video? But it looks like it's a
Oh.
video of his Google Earth.
yeah, what he's doing. Oh my god. He does this. He does like nested layers of this. What he does. So what Rodger does is he takes his camera, okay, and he points it and he records his screen physically while he pokes at it with a feather. Because he used to poke at it with his finger and he broke his screen, so he had to start using a feather, and he uses a big turkey feather.
No, he
And-
really broke it.
Yeah,
Legit, yeah.
or damaged it, or people yelled at him enough in chat that he changed his way. Maybe he didn't actually get around to breaking it, but he does that, and you will sometimes watch, and we may see it tonight, where he has this, okay, and you can tell by the way it's aligned. Like, this is not a screenshot. A screenshot is perfectly aligned. But
I need to find
this-
something to use as a pointer for my videos. Maybe I should use the fibula of Homo habilis, and I can just like.
No, you said it wrong. It's called tibula. Tibula.
I forgot. I forgot. Credit to Nephilim 3.
Hail Nephilim free.
Holy shit.
All right.
But my point is, he'll do this, and then he'll also do the same thing with another video, and you'll have like 3 nested layers where he's taking a video of a video of a video, and like sometimes you'll have more than one of his hand with the feather on screen, and it becomes very confusing.
And I'm going to show you some of my books. I have some very, well, let me show you. All right, you're probably not going to see this all that well.
I don't
but
think
there
he
is
wrote this.
extremely fine details
That's not his book.
in every organ, how it absorbs and emits and all that stuff. You know, when we look at the surface, that's nothing. When you get deep inside and you look with electron microscope,
Whoever
now you
guessed
got
the
something to look
pancreas was spot on. There was somebody earlier who said the pancreas.
Yeah, it's the pancreas. They
It
are
was the
correct.
pancreas.
10 out of
Wow.
10. Yeah.
All right, winner.
the surface. I understand that, and I see these surfaces
don't.
everywhere. You know, it just happens. It's biology. I can't account for it, although I look at the ancient texts and they talk about these things. But you look at this, and with the things that I either showed you or will show you, it's biology. Everybody knows about the fish and the dragon. These are things.
Do we know about the fish and the dragon? I do not know about the fish and the dragon when it comes to a random picture of North Africa.
The fish is that like a Japanese like folktale?
Isn't
You
that
look at
connected
this-
to like the placement of the Eye of the Sahara or something? Is this...
It looks like it. It does
The
look
things
like
that
it.
I
Hold
either
on.
showed you
I
or
went
will show
backward a
you.
little bit because
It's
I'm
biology.
bad at life.
Everybody
Yeah, so Eye of the Sahara is in this region somewhere, or
knows
somewhere
about the
around
fish.
here, right? I mean, it's a big area, so that's not saying
Yeah.
almost anything. But it's closer to this area than it is to Egypt over here.
Hey, Purple, if you know what he's talking about, let us know, because I don't know.
Fish and the dragon. These are things that are here.
Yeah, somebody. Go ahead, I'm
Oh.
sorry.
I'm not
I
sure I
can't-
want to be familiar with his fish and dragon. That sounds like kind of kinky and like in a way that I'm not comfortable with.
The
No,
Atlas
well, they
Mountains
are
are
here.
a dragon eating a fish. I don't know. Maybe there's
Where
a
are the
video I
Atlas
missed.
Mountains, though? Aren't the Atlas... Where are the Atlas Mountains? I can't remember. I would assume they're in the vicinity of Greece.
I thought they were in Asia, like, yeah.
Well, I assume they
Western
would be
Asia.
in the vicinity of a place where
North
they can
Africa.
be connected to...
Oh, are they?
Okay, yeah. Well, fair enough.
Yeah. Separates the Sahara Desert from the Mediterranean Sea.
Yeah.
Come up, you got Google Earth, come up and look at it. That's his fin, and I believe that's the eye. I don't know what that is there. This is the tail.
If I were going to draw this as a fish, I would have done the exact opposite. The side on the right looks way more like a head than the side on the left. Just saying.
I mean,
Hey, but we can all interpret this differently because it's something that's not there.
it's,
Yeah, right.
it's a Rorschach test. It's a Google Earth Rorschach test.
And there's a dragon up here attacking that fish. There's a dragon's head. His neck
So
goes all
apparently
the way
there
down.
is something we missed. But yeah, I guess I see it.
Oh, man. Well, Beamsy, I'm not
If
sure
I
we
look through
wanna follow
Rodger
you on
eyes,
that.
I see it. But then I just want to punch something.
Yeah.
All this is bleed off, the runoff of fluids from
Real
the
quick,
decaying.
guys, I love all of you. I do, and I understand the inclination to be a little exasperated with P-Town, but I'm gonna have to ask everyone to use your words and not use what do you call it? Not call each other names. If somebody has a truly bad argument, try to explain to them why they're stupid, not that they're stupid. Does that make sense? I'm sorry. Go on.
Dragon body. And these are the dragon scales that run all the way down his throat. You see it? And all this is just blood that ran off from a gash down here across his throat. And
A gash, because it's like a giant two-dimensional, like, ancient, enormous creature of... What is happening right now?
It's also funny that he says that literally is the blood that ran off, rather than those are like erosion channels made by the blood. No,
Well,
that
because
stuff
it's
just literally
obviously-
is the blood.
it's obviously bright red, okay? So, I don't know what you could possibly be missing. It's basically the same color as this YouTube, like, progress bar. Right there. That and that over there. Same color. Just saying.
I love this assessment.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
Right.
I gotta say though, and this is a hard one, but I think Rodger is more reasonable than Hans Wormhat.
This is on an ancient map. It shows there's
That's a
dragon.
hard one.
I'm talking about two very, 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 very small numbers, and I'm saying one slightly bigger than the other. I understand.
I
the
want to
trouble.
go with Hans just because I'm almost certain that he is a Poe.
Yeah,
And
if
I
he's a
think
Poe, then
Rodger
yes.
is legit stupid.
Okay, it's way more likely that Hans is a Poe than it is that Rodger is a Poe.
Yeah, I don't
Yes.
believe that Rodger is. I think he's just like, I think he's like Gina. Like, he's just like this.
I love what Punk 2 Pasture said in the chat. He's like, what if it's Rodger? Can I call Rodger stupid?
Yes, Rodger is stupid. I'm just. I will if you get banned for it, I will do.
He will start a
because I don't
channel.
have any-
He will start posting on his channel videos about how Rodger is stupid.
Well, okay, hold on. I might do that. Maya, if you kick me off because I side with Rodger, I'm gonna start. You see? Yeah, that's how you get me to start my own channel.
Well, okay. If Rodger is in the chat, we're all gonna have to be nicer to him because
That's true. That's true. If he actually shows up, yeah. I don't wanna bite the hand that feeds us. And to be clear, you may be our audience, but Rodger is our source.
With his throat cut from, I think, 1375. Now, he spit something out at this fish. You see that all black stuff coming out of there? It's very, very, very nasty.
Can I guess what that
This
is?
is almost
I'm
identical.
guessing it's probably like igneous rock because it's black. It's probably like some type of basalt or something, I bet.
I was gonna guess foliage.
Oh, that's possible too.
But could be.
No,
but
no, I don't
Porcano
know.
almost does. Also, if you say igneous rock and I say foliage and the answer is dark lichen, we both are wrong, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
To snake venom. That'll just settle in for a second.
Would you? Well,
You see that?
that's way crisper than anything else we've seen. What just happened?
What color actually is snake venom?
It depends on the venom, but mostly colorless, I would think.
That's what I thought too.
I think it's probably like vaguely the color of like blood plasma, a sort of generic, slightly biological.
Yeah, because
Thing.
just proteins generally just are colorless. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if there are actually any venoms that are actually black.
It's a slate deposit, is what Beamsy says.
Ah.
That?
Okay.
Yeah?
So
That
then it's
dude-
metamorphic, not igneous.
Is that what slate is?
Yeah.
Okay. I have no idea what slate is.
It's almost like shell, how it has like the thin layers in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beamsy is our resident, like, geologist. It's great.
Oh right. Okay.
Oh yeah, Beams is awesome. I
Yeah.
think he's going to be on in a few weeks too.
For sure.
Awesome.
Oh, we're gonna have to do a Rodger video with if Beamsy's open to it because I would
Oh.
love.
Like, for sure. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Like,
I would love to hear Beamsy's take on this.
yeah.
That's what he spit at that fish.
Okay, but why are
And it hit the fish.
why are there filtration systems in the venom? Right? I mean, like this is the venom. Did it spit out its filtration systems too?
I don't know. Maybe Why would you filter venom? Would there be any reason to select for that or design for that?
I don't think you would filter venom.
I'm at a loss.
And this is like
Severe.
outside of its mouth too. I'm pretty sure. Like the mouth is up above.
Dude, your pareidolia is way better than mine. I can't make heads or tail of what's going on here. I look at this and I'm like, this kind of looks like what it looks like erosion, because that's what it is. It's erosion, and erosion kind of also looks like, I don't know, like lung, like cilia and stuff. Branching systems, lightning. There's a lot of things that do this. It's a very straightforward way of pattern generation.
Look at this stuff. This is as nasty as it gets. That's just not hills and valleys. And where do you see what happened to the fish? The fish's skin got eaten away. This is his fin. It hit there.
You said skin first. Is this the fin or the skin?
Well, I guess the fin probably is covered in skin, except scales. I mean,
You know what this looks like to me?
what is
This looks like a character in Star Wars. So here are the eyes, right here and here. And it's got one of those like weird funky helmets that some of the guys in Star Wars that from Jabba's Hut had. That's what it looks like. And that fits in with the whole desert theme, right? So
You know what I just thought of? Like, somebody in this chat said, where was the fish swimming? But, like, how much water would there need to be on Earth for this fish to even swim?
probably enough to flood the entire planet, Peter.
But,
Well, I
like,
mean,
way
it-
more
it-
than
it-
would even be
you
needed
signed
in
up
a
for
flood.
that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it would have to be like, man, I mean, for a fish to be that freaking huge, like, it would make Earth the size of a fishbowl for it.
Everybody's saying a flood, but there isn't enough water on Earth to even, like, cover the Earth in that much water. Whereas there is enough water on Earth for there to be a global flood, but not deep enough for a fish like this to swim in.
That depends on how varied the topology of Earth is.
That's
Because
true.
I don't think that there is any time in the justifiable geologic past that we can go back and look at where there was a uniform enough variance of the height of the land mass, not the water, that you could cover the entire water. Like, you can't get there just by chopping the Himalayas down by a factor of 3.
That's
right?
why I think, if I remember correctly, the Himalayas are formed either very, very late in the flood or post-flood from a creationist perspective on the timeline. So most of the major mountain ranges, except for the Appalachians, aren't believed to have been there during the flood based on dates. But
Are there any of these models that are like fleshed out quantifiably that don't fail the heat problem question, though?
not that I know of.
Look, you guys are obviously ignoring the obvious right here. With God, all things are possible.
See, I'm just going to deny that there isn't enough water, though. So
There's not enough water for any model that works with our current understanding of physics. We do not have a way to explain the current topography of the Earth and how that could manifest in the last whatever 1,000 years.
Yes, I'd agree with that. We don't have a current model which can rearrange the continents and cause the flood without also causing too much heat.
Is
It's
this
not
a
currently
true?
exists.
Is this a true statement?
I mean, depending to some level of significant figures, it's a true statement, but I actually don't know. I would. How much water was there? I mean, is P-Town? Are you suggesting that there is an enormous amount of water that left the Earth's biosphere? because then you have to explain how it left the Earth's biosphere as well, which is its own energy and heat problem.
Oh yeah, hey, P-Town, we got another Christian on the big screen over here, just for you, just for you, and maybe Doc. All right, sorry, I'm derailing.
P-Town and Peter both think that I am either, I guess, mostly a future, not a secret creationist, but they think I'm a future creationist, but they're wrong. I'm just saying.
No, I think that Peter is a future old Earth creationist.
Yeah, I mean, he's very familiar with that opinion in the community.
Hey, I am a former old Earth creationist. Come to his fold. Come on, we
wait,
Catholics
hold
will
on. You-
envelop you in our loving arms.
So you no longer think the Earth is old? That's an irresponsible way of interpreting what you just said. But
And it came all the way down to here on his back. Well, if you look at this pink area, you see it's got a lot of fine little articulation in there. But you know, like, who knows what it is? Could just be
Articulation.
it's got fine little articulation, but who knows what it is in this pink area?
Articulation means when like things fit together as they do in life. So like if you find bones articulate in the fossil record, it means like the leg bones are connected together as they would have been when the animal was living. So like I have no idea what he even means by articulation in the slightest.
Neither does he.
That is because you're unable to articulate how what you just said is dumb, Peter. Boom!
desert. But up here, different story. Right here is his back. And it ate the top layer off down to the blood vessels.
Now, how did it do that? It somehow, the dragon bit, and it pulled off like a tiny, tiny layer of skin to reveal just the perfectly untouched blood vessels underneath, apparently.
I mean, if that's what it's into.
Oh wait, but aren't these filtration systems? How come they're now blood vessels? I need some anatomical criteria by which he's distinguishing these from filtration systems.
Well, okay, but hold
in
on,
the pancreas,
right? But hold on. But the circulatory system, right, is we got a head, and then we got some arms, then we got some legs, and then we got another arm, and then we got the thing, right? And you got all the blood, and so the main area, at least for me, where all of the blood spends its time, is down in this sort of area. Okay, I have one weasel here, one weasel here, one weasel here, one weasel here, and then I have tapioca up here. Okay, so Tap's up top, and it goes all around. But guess what? We do have these magical things here. You got this thing, and then you also got these sort of things that go behind it, and those are the liver and the kidneys. And this is a scientific diagram. I have a real PhD. It's real, and therefore, blood.
Can I use that in my upcoming paper?
Yes, you can. I would die happy if you used this in your own paper. But you know, kidneys are like a filter for like the bloods and the crypts. Okay. There we go.
These are the tiny little blood vessels. You see that? These are the arteries coming down and then feeding off of them. See, this is regular. I believe these are blood cells.
I know you do.
I don't know what they are, but I believe that's what they are.
I mean,
and they were coming down and they fed off here to feed all the tissues around it.
It looks more like black mold to me.
I would love to go find those black dots, and they're literally going to be like boulders the size of cars.
So, is that, when you say a boulder the size of a car, is that a small boulder the size of a large boulder, or a large boulder the size of a small boulder? Do you know the joke I'm making? It's a specific meme I'm referencing.
I do not know.
I'll share it with you later. There was a thing. The cops in some random town in Colorado tweeted a picture of a large rock obstructing the roadway on like I-70 or something, and they were like, a large boulder the size of a small boulder blocked traffic today.
Oh, I remember that.
Everybody was like, that is hilarious.
Now that you say that, I remember.
Yeah, it's come up on Dapper's streams a number of times. Which, yeah.
Toxin burnt off the top level of skin. You can see right down inside like it was just sandblasted.
By the way, has Rodger ever dealt with like square cube law in any of his videos?
Probably.
Because I've never heard that.
Properly, no.
Okay.
Like, in inappropriate situations, no. Like, does it occur to him that rules out by like 8 orders of magnitude all of his ideas? No.
That's not. There's just too much here that just makes sense when you think about it. And if this is a fish, and he got hit with a dragon spit, which it obviously did.
Obviously.
And what is this? Why is this here? No, is this growth that's growing in here because of the red blood? And the red blood makes things grow.
You know what? I bet those are actually trees. That could be.
Yeah, that looks like foliage. That does look like local groves and stuff to me. That doesn't look geologic. I could be wrong.
No.
Really makes things grow. So I would say this is probably artery. And
Probably an artery.
So how does he know it's not a vein?
Huge. I mean, obviously,
Because it's blue and not red.
No. Arteries would be red. I guess. Okay, so it's not blue. So
Oh,
it's
right, because it's red and not blue. Even though it
yeah,
does
but
look
wouldn't
more
it?
blue than red.
Wouldn't like? Yeah, but if you expose the blood to the air, wouldn't it turn red again? Because like it would probably be able to oxidize some.
I've heard that. I don't know. I've heard that. I don't know if it's actually true though. Like, I wouldn't necessarily expect that just because a red blood cell is exposed to air that you're gonna get the oxygen going all the way down into the hemoglobin molecule in a way that.
But if it's sat long enough, the vessel would then it would decay and then it expose the heme unit, and over time
it's mostly gonna just look blackish with a red sort of tinting.
Yeah.
Right.
But my point is, even if it were a vein, then it would eventually turn red, because the iron would eventually get exposed to oxygen as it degrades.
I don't know, man. You'd have to talk to like Aaron Ra about that, and I would pay a lot of money to see a conversation with you and Aaron Ra, but I'm not sure I would recommend it.
I think he would do it. I just don't know if you'd be able to get the.
I don't know if you guys are compatible.
Yeah.
Probably not. I am not a fan of Aaron Ra in the slightest.
Yeah.
gigantic fish. And the dragon goes all the way across North Africa, and his tail is over here. You see all the dragon scales still over here? And the metals are running out. Metals are in the blood. All right, you see all this right here? This is his tail.
This is tail.
What size is that?
It seems like this has been a failure of science communication. Once people learn that blood contains iron, everybody has just wanted to say that everything that is red contains blood in it.
Yeah, it makes me see red, and suddenly my eyes become heavy because apparently they're filled with iron. Terrible. Nothing? Okay, yeah, that was a really convoluted joke, sorry.
That this whole area drained. It was watery at one time. This is drain off. You see here? It drained off and created the Cape Verde Islands out here. It piled up here and then eventually skirted around it.
What if that's a larger artery?
A large artery, the size of a small artery, perhaps.
This is an alluvial plain. It's just a flat plain of mud. And I believe this is Atlantis. It's the Eye of the Sahara.
There we are. There we are. Eye of the Sahara. Finally.
Maybe it's the eye of the fish.
I was really hoping we wouldn't stumble upon this one.
The Eye of the Sahara?
I know.
Do
It,
you have
it
a
was a
video?
dumb wish.
Do you have a video, Peter, on the Eye of the Sahara? Because I know that Mini
No.
Minuteman does, but the last time I linked him, you pointed out that I didn't link yours, which is fair, because you're our guest.
No, I was joking.
Many
Yeah, I know.
videos about that as well. The fish, usually they're in water. I don't know. I don't look at me for answers. I'm showing what exists.
I don't look for you for answers, Rodger. It's not a problem that I or anybody in our audience has. Trust me.
He may have just said the one correct thing he said all stream. Like, he did just say that fish are usually in water. That does happen to be correct.
That depends, though. There's a lot of fossil fish that are no longer in water, and if you do the math...
Are they really fish, though, still? Because, like, if they don't contain any of the original organic material, can you really still consider it a biological thing?
They absolutely are, because I said so, and I'm the science decider, and I think science. Just saying.
I need to get my lab coat out.
Oh, I have a lab coat.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
It says. I got my. Oh, we got.
I thought that was your Halloween costume.
It's that too. Because it says it's a beautiful lab coat, and it says that a scientist is always fine. Fantastic. There we go.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, it's.
Where's your lab coat, Maya?
Uh-oh.
There we go.
But I have a robe.
Fantastic.
Lab coats always work very well with hoodies. I'm always finding that out in lab.
I never wear a lab coat in lab because I never have any like wet lab like duties or whatever. I don't do chemicals and stuff like that, which is when you need to wear a lab coat. Physicists do not wear lab coats, like almost ever.
You keep saying that.
This is a Halloween costume, and it says the scientist is always fine, and that's because I'm beautiful. And
I originally brought this for a mystery dinner, like years and years ago, and it was way too big for me. And then I went to college and actually needed it, and I already had a lab coat.
fantastic, 10 out of 10. They don't provide you with them?
No.
Weird.
Exists, and it is on the surface of the earth. It's not deep buried or anywhere. That's on top of the earth. That did not happen that long ago, in my mind.
Yeah, I know it's on top of the earth. It's a Google, like, Earth image, okay? That's all it can see, is the stuff on top of the earth. And just done. I had no idea that it was just gonna just be done. Was there a thing that you wanted me to bring up, Maya?
Okay, so
Yeah.
BMZ had a birthday present for you.
This will be fun. Let's do it. There we go.
Once a year we celebrate with stupid hats and plastic plates. The fact that you were able to make another trip around the sun. And the whole clan gathers round and gifts and laughter do abound. And we let out a joyful sound and sing that stupid song. Happy birthday, now you're 1 year older. Happy birthday, your life still isn't over. Happy birthday, you did not accomplish much, but you didn't die this year, I guess that's good enough.
So let's drink to your fading health and hope you don't remind yourself your chance of finding fame and wealth decrease with every year. Does it feel like you're doing laps and eating food and taking naps and hoping that someday perhaps your life will hold some cheer?
Happy birthday!
What have you done that matters?
Happy birthday!
You're starting to get fatter.
Happy birthday!
It's downhill from now on. Try not to remind yourself your best years are all gone.
If cryogenics were all free, then you could live like Walt Disney and live for all eternity inside a block of ice. But instead your time is set, this is the only life you get. And though it hasn't ended yet, sometimes you wish it might. Happy birthday!
You wish you had more money.
Happy birthday!
Your life's so sad it's funny.
Happy birthday!
How much more can you take?
But your friends are hungry, so just cut the stupid cake. Happy birthday! Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Camden, Stanley,
Frank, Skippy, the
Dickie, Bob,
Starts with an
Oh.
Thank you, Beamsy.
Oh, that was, yeah. I am gaining weight. Turns out the fun time stopped when I was 29. That's mostly because of my medications, though. 10 out of 10 would make that deal again, though. Oh my god, my anxiety medication, completely worth it. Yes, I gained like 30 pounds.
30 pounds?
Okay, so in late 2019, that was when I had like a mental health crisis. I had hit hardcore burnout. My dad was starting to get sick.
No, yeah, we understand. It was totally horrible time. But it's your birthday stream.
Yeah. I know. If this is a happy thing, I'm just saying.
You can't bum out the entire chat on your birthday.
I'm not bumming out. Would you let me finish, Maya? Gosh.
Fine.
Gall, cereal.
Look, if the entire chat commits suicide after the stream, I'm holding you personally responsible.
Okay, well, see, that's a way to just destroy our terms of service, like, options. How are we going to stay monetized when you're dropping the S word, Maya? It's the one word that really you can't use.
What's monetization?
It's the thing that I, more than anybody else, am getting you towards. So...
All right. So we promised Peter that we would only be like partially blasphemous.
Exactly. Hold on, let's bring it up.
So Rodger has discovered Gnostic Informant. It's his very latest video. So if anybody knows how to get a hold of Neil, let him know that he's been discovered by an insane person.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so... yeah, we're getting a high-level overview. We got the periodic table of the elements over here, which I like.
We've got a giant hair follicle on the desk.
Can we, before he starts blaspheming, and I do want to remind you that you're, like, amongst a bunch of fucking blasphemers and probably a fuck ton of sodomites. Just, full disclosure. However, I think the first... 30 seconds it's kind of an overview of like, I don't know, Neil's channel and Giant Jesus, and then like, I don't know if we get like, I don't know, first 15 or 20 seconds and then jump to 30.
Isn't there something in
I can do the
first don't Muslims believe that Adam was like 90 feet tall or something like that?
We're gonna
Do we have any Muslim knowledge or knowledgeable people in the chat who can corroborate that? Because I don't know, giants were a big thing in the Bible, and he's talking about Enoch, and I know giants were huge, certainly the Nephilim, but I don't think they were the only giants in Enoch.
Yeah, I feel like the biblical giants also kind of get misinterpreted by people who are critical of the Bible, because most of the stuff that's actually going on in the Bible is not outside of like the realms of possibility. Like if you look at like the variance between the different texts, these are not actually giants that are like unreasonably tall, like such that they defy the square cube law. Like,
oh, you're just saying that maybe everybody was really short, and so somebody that's like maybe Doc size would have seen like a giant.
What I'm saying is like the maximum limit for how tall a person can actually get is about 8 going up towards 9 feet.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think on how long. Like if you're at 9, you're only going to make it a couple of years. If you're at 8, you might make it a couple of decades.
And from what I've looked into, it seems like most of the biblical giants could possibly fit into that range. So,
yeah. I think that's true. I don't think Goliath. I think Goliath was a big dude. He was just a big dude. I think Goliath was, assuming Goliath exists, which I don't actually have a huge problem with. King David is somebody for whom there is what I would describe as tenuous sort of archaeological evidence,
Yeah, sure.
completely separate from the biblical text. There is tenuous archaeological evidence for a king of a nation which you could call Israel. Anyway, it's a thing. But yeah, no, there's a big hair follicle on the desk. So there's
Anyway, the point generally being that I feel like the modern perception of giants has kind of clouded some people's view of what the Bible is talking about when it refers to giants,
Yeah,
and like
so
those aren't necessarily the same thing.
right, so you're differentiating like grim fairy tale giants from
Yeah.
perhaps more of an embellishment to describe how heroic a hero was.
Maybe.
how
I don't know that it's
intimidating.
necessarily an embellishment. I mean, in the case of the Nephilim, I'm not even certain that they were giants, because what's being talked about there is more them
doesn't
being
say.
giants of sin is more
Okay.
the implication, I think,
Interesting.
which they may also have been extraordinarily tall, but I'm not certain about that.
How many verses are the Nephilim referenced, though, right?
Well, there's also a reference when the people of Israel begin to enter into the land of Canaan, and they compare the people that they find in the land of Canaan to the
Yes.
Nephilim. And there's discussion of how tall the people in the land of Canaan are. So that's really the only passage I would think that would support the Nephilim being very tall. Because in the actual passages about the Nephilim in Genesis, it doesn't necessarily have to be interpreted as them being tall.
Yeah. So the first 4 verses of chapter 6 in Genesis, NIV, by the way. When men began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married any of them that they chose. Well, there's a whole consent issue there. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not contend with man forever, for he is mortal. His days will be 120 years." That's the thing that didn't kick in until a while later, apparently.
There's disagreement about what exactly that's being meant there, because some people think that's that God is predicting that the flood is going to come 120 years from then. Others are saying that is the age limit. I'm not sure exactly where I stand on that, but that is an alternate possibility. Because right after this comes God talking to Noah about the flood.
Yeah, well, yeah, at the start of chapter 7. So that was, then the Lord said, "My spirit will not contend with man forever, for he is mortal. His days will be 120 years. And then verse 4, "The Nephilim were on the earth in these days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown."
So the question is kind of what makes them renowned, because some passages some translations want to translate Nephilim as giants, but it really just refers more to fallen ones. So it's more talking about a spiritual state, I think, than it is necessarily a physical one.
What I think it's talking about is what I think it is doing is it's taking, that is a one sentence way of grabbing all of the mythology that exists about classical heroes in whatever culture exists at the time and is able to sort of attribute it to God. That's how it comes across to me. But yeah.
Okay, my outstanding friends, this is like a gift from heaven.
It really is, Rodger. It really is.
I look into the Gnostic texts, as well as the Bible, as well as the ancient myths of Apollodorus, Plato, Herodotus, Hesiod, Ovid, all of them. And I try to find things that make sense to me. Now, I just happen to I am subscribed to this channel, Gnostic Informant, who goes through the Gnostic texts. And I specifically talk about the Gospel of Thomas, who was doubting Thomas, who was Jesus' scribe, and wrote the Gospel of Thomas. And
Okay, is there anywhere at all remotely in the entire New Testament that supports the idea? In the New Testament, which is already, for the record, going... This is nonsense. I think.
Well, I mean, it's Rodger, so I mean,
fair.
you
And it's
know,
a whole batch of
Roger
who
is
knows-
just the
and who
best
knows which
person
one
to
he's
come to
talking
for
about.
spiritual advice.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
sayings, and a couple of them in there point exactly to the most crazy things in my research and point them as being correct.
What research? What research, Roger? The contents of your channel are your research. Doesn't count. Sorry.
It's kind of like him looking at things and like, that looks kind of like this.
That
is his entire research program.
Exactly. That's his entire thought process. Is this kind of looks like this, and the reason it's remarkable with Rodger is because thing A and thing B that he's saying thing A looks like thing B. Most of the time, it doesn't. It just doesn't. I'm not even gonna give him that.
Now, when I saw this today, I said, wow, let me just look and see what he's got to say, and what a fabulous presentation. And I just came across this. Now, wait till you hear this. You know that I have the giants. Mine are DNA tested and the whole 9 yards. They're not huge.
DNA tested.
150.
So last time we showcased Rodger, we saw his tested DNA of giants.
He just pulls this out of his butt.
My concern is that he does the sampling.
Oh god.
I don't know. It was like, was it on a Word document or something stupid like that? It was insane.
Yeah, I saw that too, where he had this thing that he got from the lab where he sent it, and then he had the whole document. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you're in the chat. Yeah. This is what he's talking about.
Oh god, right.
So yeah, this video I think is like 5 hours old or something. It's
oh yeah,
and he's talking about Neil's video on Gnostic Informant that came out like this morning.
But
which is like 3 hours long. So I haven't seen the whole thing. But suffice it to say, Rodger's cherry picking and he's doing the Rodger.
For the record, we never actually got around to doing our normal thing that we do. Satan's here. Look at the number of likes. Just saying. Yeah, 666 likes. Okay. So this came out 6 hours ago. We got 5,300 views, and we've got a cool, beautiful 189,000 subs. There we go. Fantastic. I don't know what you guys are doing, but let's get with it.
Close to 200 feet tall, maybe.
Washington, 12 stories tall, fucking weighed a ton.
But I have other ones that have hair follicles like this. This is a hair follicle.
No, it's not.
Now let me show you what this.
That is literally like
video.
It's a concretion. Like rocks can form in layers. If there is something embedded in the rock over time, minerals will precipitate around it in layers and form something that looks like that.
Why?
Yeah.
It's not going to be upset.
Yeah, no, I mean, it looks like an egg.
Yeah. I mean, clearly it's a fossilized egg.
Yeah, and this is like a fossilized bird beak, if I recall correctly. Right?
No. I watched a video, and that is literally, he thinks it's the foot of he thinks that's a fossilized. Yeah, that's supposedly the fossilized foot of humans who had all the bones in their foot
what? That's Caesar
grow
Augustus.
together into.
That looks like Caesar Augustus, right? There's clearly a beak and then this angry eye. It's clearly a bird head. I will say though, the one that he says looks kind of like a lung. It looks kind of like a lung because lungs are very nondescript.
Traitor.
Let me showing it.
See, this is the problem that Maya always has with me. Now you're getting it too.
But this is a great channel, Gnostic Informant. I'm going to be watching to see, because the presentation is fabulous. All right, so let's continue on here.
Based on Rodger's
The Old
videos,
Testament God is actually
based on Rodger's videos, I'm kind of doubting how well presentations that he calls fabulous are in terms of presentation and content.
Well, you sound like Doubting Thomas, Jesus' scribe.
Old Testament God is actually the devil, and Judas was the hero. And all the way to pagan Christians like the
Pagan Christians. I don't know what that means.
Is this like the spectrum of creation, or of Christians rather?
Yeah, he's talking about. Well, this is actually a Gnostic Informant's video, and he's talking about all the different. So this is like the first 100 years of Christianity, and this goes into all the different types, like the sects.
Yeah.
I guess like
Yeah.
Okay.
because there wasn't a book, so there's all of the books, and people were just kind of picking their favorite book and taking their belief with that.
I don't know. Is this a linear spectrum, or should this be like a triangle though?
Well, there's a gap between Platonist and Jewish. See, I don't. Well, or is there? I can't tell. It's so dark there. I can't tell if the line goes between the Docetists and the Jewish.
I think it's more of a spectrum. Like, like one would be right wing and versus left wing, and I'm not saying that's how you should interpret this, but like when you're like the views, like you have the Jew. We know what Jews are, we know what pagans are, and then I think, and don't quote me on this because I need to watch the video again, and I haven't read anything on this, but like that's kind of where they fall in relation to these things that we already know about.
Like disclaimer to Gnostic Informant, we apologize for the damage that is going to be done to your content over the course of the
holy
next
shit!
minutes.
Yeah, we didn't do it. We're just showcasing how badly it was done.
Yeah, we're
and it was done badly. Full disclaimer.
Yeah. So we're sorry, but like sorry not sorry.
Arete, who believed that Greek gods such as Zeus and Aphrodite were actually the archons who created the world, and Christ came to save the world from them.
I'm telling you, that makes sense. Because if Christ was the real God, son of, right now I'm believing the sun itself, the sun, is the real God of this solar system.
Dude.
Does this make sense?
No, nothing Rodger thinks makes sense. He hears a controversial anti-mainstream position, and he just fuses his body to it. Like those weird people who think that their skin is magnetic.
Yeah, it's very odd to try to mix these together, especially since the Bible is like so obviously monotheistic. And it was also odd that he tried to argue that God is the God of the solar system. Like, I don't know where you would find support for that biblically.
Are you saying that you don't think that the God you believe in is the God of the solar system, Peter?
No, I'm saying that he's the God of the whole universe, not just the solar system.
Well, I mean, one doesn't preclude the other. Well, okay. The way you said it, it does. But the way I said it doesn't.
No, I think,
so.
What's weird to specifically single out the solar system was my point.
It is.
Like, why the God of the
I
solar
mean,
system?
He's just trying to do the whole Robertson Genis thing, probably, but he isn't as smart as Robertson Genis.
All right.
And Robertson Genis is okay. He's a tricky guy, anyway.
And the son of the Son is Jesus Christ. And he did come to save us from these people that led us astray. They were put in charge, and they didn't do what they were.
The Son is the Son of Jesus Christ.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a new one.
Supposed to do. And Jesus Christ was sent to say, look, you guys are following these guys. They're not the guys to follow. And they're going to lead you into a really bad place for eternity.
How come the Bible never mentions any of these particular gods then?
Because he has no idea where the sentence that he's beginning is going to end. That's why.
Like, if Jesus specifically came to save us from these gods, you would think maybe the Bible would, like, mention these gods, because God was speaking mainly to the Jewish people, so then it must have been the Jewish people who were affected by these gods.
Well, there are a number of gods that are called out by name, like Baal, Molech, right?
But not the specific ones he's been naming.
Well, has he named any?
I thought he did a few minutes
I
ago.
can't remember. I think he just said these and then gestured to like the thing on the screen.
It seemed like he was referring to the Greek Titans. I thought he said something about that.
He might have done that. I don't know. I don't know if that is, but the general point that there are, because I would push back on what you said earlier. I think that it is not that hard to read the Old Testament in particular as being as fluctuating between being polytheistic and being monotheistic. It's mono-idolatrous. It's mono, like, in who they identify as the entity worthy of worship, to my understanding, but it is not identifying a single entity as being of divine power.
I think I would have to disagree with that, because I think there's different ways in which the word God is used. And like Jesus in the New Testament, he explains a passage written by David in one of the Psalms where David says, "You are gods." And he points out that in context, David was not literally saying that the people were actually gods. He was basically, I'm blanking out at the moment, but I think the general point is that there are different ways
people were gods. I also agree that he wouldn't have been saying that the people were gods. He may have been referring to other gods, is what I'm saying.
Right, and what I'm saying is generally, I think what I think the Bible is explaining is that there were people who were referring to gods, but in context, I think it's pretty obvious that they're not necessarily saying they're real. They're just using the name so that they can refer to a specific supposed being, so that we understand what is being talked about.
Okay.
Because I don't see like a lot of I mean, for example, let me think of an example, like Elijah, who is on the mountain with like the worshippers of Baal. Like, he taunts them and he says, "Oh, call on Baal. Maybe he's sleeping, to send down fire, and burn up the sacrifice." By doing that, he's not necessarily he's not agreeing necessarily that Baal is real. He's just taunting them. You know what I mean? So I don't know that references to other gods like that necessarily imply that they think they're real.
What about when Aaron and Moses go before the magicians in the Pharaoh's court?
That doesn't really reference a specific god.
Well, okay, you're right. It doesn't reference a specific one, but their staves, like, they did things that if they happened in front of me, I would be like, well, obviously, like Penn and Teller or whoever did this, because they would be miraculous.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. And they seemed to be doing miracles without the backing of Yahweh.
I'm going to disagree that. I'm saying that I think that God actually gave them the power to do those miracles. Oh,
well, then God's kind of a dick, is where I would go. Sorry if that offends you, but that becomes an issue where, what am I supposed to conclude from that? I don't know what to conclude from that. But it's not that God is clearly and unambiguously acting in the favor of Moses. It seems extremely difficult to parse that.
I wouldn't even say that, because in that instance, God miraculously appears to allow the magicians to like throw their rods on the ground, for example, and turn them into snakes.
He appears? What do you mean by appears?
Well, I'm saying it appears that God is giving the magicians the ability to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then my point is that what happens then? Moses' rod goes and swallows all of the other rods in that instance. So even in that instance, it seems like God is giving them ability so that he can trump them.
Okay, he's giving them rope to hang themselves.
Kind of, yeah.
I think it would be maybe, and I see where you're coming from on that. I think it would be way, way, way more convincing if he just didn't. And they had nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that part of this, the Bible also in the Exodus story says that God hardened the heart of Pharaoh. And I think there's a role in terms of God may have been doing these sorts of things in order to harden Pharaoh's heart so that he would not believe, so that in the end, God could triumph over him in a greater way.
And I get that, but I find that to be fundamentally morally problematic in its whole own thing. If God hardened Pharaoh's heart, like, to me, that very clearly indicates, and I think you and I would fundamentally disagree on this, to me that very clearly indicates that it's absolving Pharaoh of responsibility. Yeah, he's not God. He can't. If God hardened somebody's heart, what on God's green earth am I supposed to do about it?
Well, I think the obvious point here, exactly, I am, that God has not elected everybody, and therefore, yes. So
it's the only, and I'll give you credit for that being the only consistent way that I see forward from the question that I just asked. That sounds horrifying. Now,
I think what we have to parse out here, though, is that being separated from God is the natural state, right, of mankind since the fall.
It is now, and whose fault was the fall?
I think it was man's fault.
If you were to design a system that for how people, if you were to design an environment and people had the ability in this environment and you had the ability to design the environment otherwise, such that they completely torch themselves in the most profound way, in a way that is going to echo down through the generations in just untold levels of infinite suffering, and you let people that don't have experience just go around in that environment and accidentally zap themselves and all of their descendants.
I don't think it's an accident.
Yeah, that's monstrous. The God that you're describing is monstrous then.
I don't think so, but the problem of evil is quite a long discussion. So
you're right, and we spent plenty of time on it. Yes, yeah. I for the record, Maya,
sir.
That's the way I'm looking at things now. That's what I can tell you. That's what I'm seeing now. Okay, listen to this now. This is from Refute It, and it's saying the Book of Enoch debunked 4,500-foot giants. Now listen to this.
The Book of Enoch.
The Book of Enoch is almost. There's nobody on the panel right now who thinks that the Book of Enoch. I think. Well, do you, Peter? I assume no. Yeah, there's nobody on the panel right now that thinks that the Book of Enoch is a remotely respectable historical source.
And you know that the Book of Enoch is actually where they go into like deeper detail about the Nephilim being descendants of angels, whereas in the Bible, I don't think think that's actually what we get out of the Bible. But the Book of Enoch identifies the sons of God as being angels and tries to make that argument.
I would agree. I would agree that the Bible, as I know the document, does not specify that. But yeah,
it's the one Enoch text
claims that hundreds of fallen angels mated with human women during the pre-flood era. And the angels, the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after the daughters of men, and said to one another, Come, let us choose wives from among the children of men and birth children. Quoted from 1 Enoch 6:2. Supposedly, from these hundreds of marriages between angels and humans, children were born. Not normal children, but children that grew to astronomical heights. According to 1 Enoch 7:2,
And there are so many
human
problems
women
with this theologically as well, because the Bible has stuff about how angels in one of the Gospels, Jesus is confronted by the Pharisees because they are talking about they basically bring up this example of marriage and divorce, and they're trying to trip Jesus up, and he says that in heaven people will not marry or be given in marriage. They're going to be like the angels, which implies that angels do not marry, which raises the question how angels are able to come down and impregnate women. And some people want to argue, well, sometimes angels in the Bible appear in human form. Yeah, but then the body that they're appearing in would seem to be a human body. So then if it's a human body mating with a human body, why would it produce a Nephilim?
Because that's how it works.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you have to remember, and I'm not sure which one. I haven't really looked into the Nephilim. I've seen a couple of different videos on it, and everything seems to be pulling from different sources. But it's kind of like what Doc was saying earlier. It depends on what myth they're referring to, because they were constantly surrounded by other religions, and depending on whoever the renowned or the men of old were, that story would have discussed mating between humans. And there was a lot of there are actually a lot of humans or gods mating with humans, and you would get these demigods, and they were
I don't think that that's necessarily pervasive or at all pervasive in the Christian and Jewish text. But you're right. The whole point that you were referring to that I was making before was that somebody imported it. Niddy's here. Hello, Niddy.
Hello.
Niddy.
Y'all were talking Genesis, and I'm like,
Yes.
oh man, I got
and I saw you in the chat, and I was like, oh my God, it's a gift from the baby Jesus.
All right, Peter, I'm usually not on your side, but tonight, baby, let's go.
Yay.
So here's my thing. Back a minute ago, we're talking about Moses and the snakies and the magic. I don't know if you saw it in the chat, but I'm like, let's go. So my thing that I had for an interpretation of that event is that you kind of draw back from the New Testament and kind of project this on there a little bit, but it's this idea that Paul puts forth that even demons can disguise themselves as angels of light. So you kind of pair that concept with things like the witch on Endor, or other crazy shit that happens in the Old Testament, or Balaam. You can even say Balaam, right? His prophetic messages aren't necessarily from God because they're being, well, anyway, yes. Okay. Scratch that one.
Okay.
At any rate, the whole staff thing, right? Got questions. Maybe even AIG is like, yeah, maybe Satan empowered them, right? That it could be your view that God's like, here you go. I will let you do this so that I can show that Moses is my dude.
I guess I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with Satan doing it either, but ultimately, I think God gave Satan the ability to have those powers,
right?
Distribute them. So then ultimately, we get back to God anyway. So
right, yeah, that wouldn't even be my contention either. You could just say, God made Satan very powerful, and he's using his free agency to try to oppose God or deceive the Hebrews, whatever. So yeah, my Christian self totally agrees with you in that regard. And then what were we talking about?
The Nephilim.
The sneaky pregnancies. So where was I going with this? So Jesus saying that angels neither marry nor give in marriage. Totally agree with you that the relate. I think I want to put it more this way: the idea of a covenantal union between a man and a woman, angels no, right? That seems to be where Jesus is going with that, right?
Yeah.
Especially with the Pharisees, saying like, the brother dies and she gets, hooked up with the next one. Brother dies, she gets hooked up with the next one. And the implication there is that each of them down the line are kinsman redeemers, which would be closer to our modern ideas of marriage than something like back in Genesis, where the word wife, I know in most English translations you're going to see wife for like Sarai was Abraham's wife. Well, it could equally be very simply read as Sarai was Abram's woman. And so it's not that the Nephilim were taking wives, it's that they were finding a way to take women, and that kind of makes a lot of sense if
so you would make the distinction between this being like more of a legal thing versus them just taking women,
or even a covenantal thing.
Sure.
Right. That this idea of these like sons of God, let's say they're crazy sinful dudes, right?
So what do you think about is being meant by Jesus in that context? Because it seems like then what he's simply saying is that people are not going to marry in a covenantal way, but they're still going to have sex in heaven?
So
is that what you think is being meant?
No, neither. So
Okay.
And the other thing, I guess, from let's say I was like agnostic leaning on Christian, and I just would see things culturally, like let's say like the authorship of the Old Testament the Mosaic parts of the Old Testament are partly a reflection of how marriage or marital relations or child rearing, whatever, is more reflective of those cultural ideas where men and women, men take women. Just leave it at that. You can object to that later. But the ideas of marriage changed as you get to Greece and Rome, where there is exclusivity and it's not about just child rearing. You actually kind of have feelings and create a civil and personal, like relational bond with someone. And that is like something that is codified into Roman law. It's different from like plebeians and, the well-to-dos. And Jesus could be reflecting something more akin to that. And it seems that like with them even mentioning the word divorce, which is different than the idea of putting away a woman, which is more of like a Old Testament way of putting it. It's more of like a Greek word for actually like, no, the contract of this relationship is over.
What do you think about the passages in like 2 Peter and Jude, which some people try to make the connection there between, these fallen angels and in the sexual immorality that's mentioned in the passage? To me, what appears to be going on there is that it's actually linking the sexual immorality to Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's saying likewise this is a rebellion against God, not likewise these angels are committing sexual immorality.
What do you know the passage offhand, so I can take?
Well, Jude only has one chapter.
Right.
But let me
take
search.
A quick look here. Authority.
Jude 1:6.
Okay. So let me take a quick look. So in verse 5, no, I got it. I've got it up right now. In verse 5, he's the author of Jude is saying that the people who left Egypt were delivered but failed to rely on him on faith, whatever, and God destroyed them, right? And then let's go with verse 6 being the idea of the angels that rebelled against God and went along with Satan. In a similar way, Sodom and Gomorrah gave up God's design for sexuality and, is also punishing them with fire, which is similar to eternal fire. So it's not so much that all of these actions are the same type, or sorry, the same actual action. Like all these behaviors or things that are happening are not the same action, right? The people in the wilderness aren't like, yeah, we got out of Egypt and we're banging everything. Like, no, like they're just not relying on God in faith. And so, like the Korhath's rebellion, right? Where God opens up the ground. It's like, blah, 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 blah. Sucks them in the ground. That's a destruction, right? And in a similar way, these angels that rebelled against God are destined for destruction. Sodom and Gomorrah are a type of the future destruction, right? So it's not that each of them represents sexual immorality. It's that each of them has their own category of immorality. And Jude's like, stay away from all that.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense?
That's what I thought, that this has more to do with, I guess, rebellion against God in general and receiving a similar punishment, not necessarily having committed the same sin.
Right. Yeah. See, we're on the same Christian page. Look at this.
Way to go, Niddy.
Yeah.
I hope everyone was entertained by that.
Thanks for coming on to tell us about that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not trying to derail or anything. And you've been a great guest, by the way. It's been really fun to hear you guys banter and laugh at Rodger.
Yeah.
All right. Are we going to continue with me on the panel, or should I take my leave?
Yeah, no, I was just about to ask you that. Are you comfortable staying, or I don't know. I know you have little ones and a job and all the fun stuff, but
it's 11:30 here. If their asses are up, I'm in trouble.
All right. I'm sorry, Doc. Are you comfortable with Niddy staying?
Yeah, I don't mind.
All right.
Niddy always gives a thoughtful and this sounds.
I don't
like
talk
a mean
shit
thing
all
to
the
say.
time.
No. What I was gonna say was, I realized that what I was about to say sounded bad, but I have to say it because it's the way that I thought of it. Surprising amount of insight into literally every conversation I have with you. You are surprisingly insightful.
Thank you. I appreciate
that. My surprise has waned dramatically as I've gotten to know you more, because you've read up and thought about these things a lot, and
thank you.
It's like in ways that I haven't had the time, interest, or opportunity necessarily to do. One of the three, So yeah.
A scientific
real
conjecture.
Quick, guys. 2 seconds, Niddy. 2 seconds. All right. Mama ain't happy. My children are fighting, and we are changing the subject right goddamn now. All men and women are equal. Period. Change the goddamn topic.
Uh-oh. I missed that part.
Was this
anyway, I'm not
happy
paying
now.
attention.
Well, I'm happy, which means that everybody's happy.
No, I'm legitimately, because I'm very confused. Was this about what was happening in chat, or?
No, Niddy was talking about stuff and shit.
What?
I'm lost.
Same.
Are we?
Created by angels,
The video.
gave birth to
Let's
giants that reached heights of 4,500 feet tall.
I think they were taller than that, but that's pretty tall.
Yeah, it is pretty tall. It's almost a mile tall. It's pretty. It's unphysically tall. Square cube law.
Okay, so he's saying they were not quite a mile tall. They were 4,500 feet tall in that area, and there would have been hundreds of them around. Well, I think they could have been bigger than that.
I love how he's just so upset. Oh, this
is
is way too small. Why are you so undershooting the size of giants?
Yeah, they're not bold enough in what they're doing,
Is than a human hair follicle. But let's say that was from a human. That is a hair follicle. This right here is where the erector pili muscle attaches. This right here is the sebaceous gland. You see it? This is the root. It comes up through, and it comes up to the shaft, out through the top. And this is a flat-sided hair, which is from a curly-haired person, they say. And of course, you have the vein and the artery at the bottom. And that's a hair follicle. Now,
Is that a hair follicle?
I have doubts.
Fair.
I got to figure, I don't know. Maybe it's from a 4,500 foot tall creature. I have no idea. All
I know you don't, Rodger.
Do you know that though? I mean, because he seems convinced.
Well, okay. Well, what we need to have an epistemological conversation about what the meaning of knowledge is then, Maya.
Look, well, okay, so this looks like that. So,
Fair.
science.
That's how science works.
Yeah.
I've been told by people like him.
I can tell you it's a big creature. So I would say at least what Enoch was talking about is probably quite likely. Now, were they bigger? I don't know. But I can tell you one thing, the dragons were much bigger. Much bigger. And Jesus was supposedly 96 miles tall, so that's quite a bit bigger than...
What?
That just came out of nowhere.
Jesus was 96 miles tall. Not 97.
Niddy, have you come across this before?
Absolutely.
Obviously,
not.
in his search of the text.
Yeah,
I've learned more about hair right now than just that I need to cut it.
Right?
Is your hair flat-sided and curly, or?
No comment.
It depends on which hair follicles.
less than a mile. Okay, my other giants are DNA tested. They're not as big as what would be if this was a hair follicle, which it is. And the other one...
It's not. It's just not. It looks more like a potato.
ones are what they are. They've been DNA tested, but...
A what?
A potato that had an accident. I don't know.
Yeah, word.
It would equate to something maybe about 160 to between 160 180 feet tall, something like that. That's good size. Now, this is what caught my eye here, is Jesus said, if they say to you, where did you come from? Say to them, we came from the light, which is from the sun. The place where the light came into being on its own accord. It just happens because as the sun, it just happens on its own accord. It established itself and became manifest through their image. The images of us are the same as the images of them. If they say to you, is it you? You say, we are its children. We are the children of the light. We are the elect of the living Father. We have.
I was like, what is going on? And I'm like,
where is this?
I'm like, oh, this must be the book of Enoch, or it must be
No,
what was the other
this
book you
isn't
mentioned?
Enoch. This would be the only other one that I know he's mentioned.
It was the
is
Thomas.
The book of Thomas. Yeah.
Yeah, it must be the Gospel of Thomas.
Okay. Yeah.
And that
I'm
could
like,
be,
what
yeah,
planet?
yeah. That makes sense because the Gospel of Thomas, if I recall correctly, and Niddy would know more than I would, I think, is a collection of sayings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Each verse is self-contained, which, looking at what's on screen, they might be thematically related, but each thing here is self-contained to some degree, or to a pretty big degree, honestly. Right, like 50.
Yeah.
The topic of 50 and the topic of 51, those do not have to be adjacent, like, things that actually happened. They're thematically maybe related, but they're not. Yeah.
Been selected.
Does that track? Or am
From what I'm seeing, yeah.
Or am I just? This is what happens when I think science. I got a shirt that says "Think Science." It's great. It's so on brand.
Our molecules to have a soul and to become an entity. Basically, we are the elect. If they ask you, what is the sign of your Father in you? Say to them, it is movement and repose.
Even still, like in this context, light is obviously not referring to the sun. I think it's pretty obvious that
right.
whoever wrote the
Yeah.
Gospel of Thomas is not
Yeah.
referring to the literal sun.
And even so, even not all light comes from the sun. That's not how light works. That's not what light is, okay? We all know what light is. It's electromagnetic radiation because we are fortunate enough to live in a time where we all know that. And it doesn't all come from the sun.
I mean, I'm with Peter here. It's probably something akin to the Johannine concept of light, where it's like, this is spiritual light. It's a revelation. We have come from a revelation that bears, human image, God's image.
Either that or the light is just a reference to God. The
Sure.
Father
Yeah.
specifically in this sense, it seems.
Yeah, that God is a being of light. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm with that.
Oh, Bree. I love you so much, Bree. Oh.
Movement is light as it moves. Repose is light as it's just a heat particle. It's not moving. And that is seen, that's the cosmic microwave background. It's just the glow of the universe. And light moving forward and blasts and all these bomb things going on, that is the movement. And the other part is just the glow when it just settles down and doesn't move anymore. That's the repose. Now, look at this one, 56.
I'm not okay. I'm not okay right now. I don't... What is happening?
The light electromagnetic field, proton, electron, space does not equate.
Oh, you're so mean, Peter.
Oh my God.
Jesus said, whoever has come to understand the world has found only a corpse. And I'm telling you, that's all it is. And whoever has found a corpse is superior to the world. So if you
What does that mean?
can find that the earth...
So I don't have anything to say. I'm like trying to figure that out too. Like I'm lost for words.
I don't...
Niddy.
Yeah, okay. Let me give the most charitable interpretation of the Thomas part, but then I don't know how we got from the
Very
light
carefully.
thing and the background radiation to whoever has come to know the world has found a corpse. Like, this is the most stringent alphabet soup of thought. Okay.
Well, maybe
So,
Rodger has found a corpse of a giant, and therefore he has found the world.
I think
Yeah, it's got to be that. Mhm.
could be that. Could be that. He could be laying down a legal defense because he found a body at an inopportune time. Totally possible. But he could also be like a huge fan of that movie about a bunch of kids that went into the woods and found a dead body. What's it called? Stand By Me, right? Stand By Me. I think that's the name of the movie. And so that could be what's happening here. People have done weirder things.
Okay.
is
so
a corpse.
Go on.
Oh, what? My hot take interpretation of Thomas 56. It's, let's say that world means again something Johannine like cosmos, where it's the world apart from God. So it's like whoever has come to know or to be in the cosmos has found a corpse, something that is spiritually dead, and whoever has found this corpse of him, the world is not worthy. So it's like maybe it's like the world in the sense of like a spiritual world. So now, if you're stuck in the cosmos, you can't. You're not the spiritual world. I don't know. I messed it up.
No, I know. I
Screw it.
know what you're saying, though. I know what you're saying, and I feel like you're
The second part of the saying just screwed me up.
Well, because
I thought it was saying the opposite.
What was happening there? What was happening there was each individual thought and like elaboration on the thing that just came before. All of those isolated together like make some amount of sense. But then when you pull back and you look at the whole thing and you're like, what's going on here? Something breaks because reasons. That's all I got.
Yeah, I think
Well, then I guess you're...
I think I want to
I gotta stop
reverse
doing
that.
I gotta stop
It's
doing
that-
that, Niddy. I've done that like 3 times to you. I just cut you off.
It's fine. So maybe it's like whoever realizes that the world is the cosmos apart from God, and whoever has found that this is apart from God, of him this world, this cosmos, is not worthy. It's that since they have discovered that, yeah, okay, this is more with Gnostic thinking too, which you would say Thomas is, that the world is bad, and if you have the right revelation, you are getting out of the world, and you're better than it. Okay, I'm done.
Superior to the world. Blessed is the man who has suffered and found life. Well, take heed of the living one while you are alive, lest you die and seek to see him and be unable to do so. Take heed.
Like,
It's
there's
like, wow.
a lot of those are you can I can find a lot of wisdom in what was just said there.
I can't.
But I blessed is the man who has suffered and found life. You don't think that there's any wisdom in the idea of suffering and finding life?
I thought you were still talking about the corpse one, but
Oh no, the corpse one. I have no idea what's going on. I got no idea what's going on with the corpse one. Okay,
It's Gnostic wisdom. Call
let me tell
Neil.
you, Peter, if I'm gonna do weird stuff with a corpse, Maya's like already at that point like been like deplatformed from YouTube, so nobody's seeing it, right?
the next one in verse 60 says, he said to them, you two look for a place for yourself within repose, lest you become a corpse and be eaten.
Yeah.
This is like
Living one
Weekend
while
at
you are
Bernie's stuff.
It's Gospel of Thomas.
He said,
alive.
go.
The living one is still Jesus as far as I'm concerned. And all of these things are just absolutely unbelievable. His disciples said to him, when will the repose of the dead come about, and when will the new world come? He said to them, what you look
Unbelievable in
forward
that
to
they're
has
like
already
so
come.
crazily unbelievable in that they're so crazy you can't believe they're true, or unbelievable in that you can't understand them so you can't believe them.
Incredible, Peter. Incredible. I don't know.
But you do not recognize it. I think Revelations has already happened. There's a lot to discuss here, but this was from one of the top guys. This was the Gospel of Thomas, Doubting Thomas. And he wrote, and they rejected all these Gnostic things and Enoch and all that, because they're so spectacular. They're just beyond belief.
What?
What a
Yeah.
wonderful argument for why we should include it.
Yeah, they're spectacular and fantastic and beyond belief. Therefore, obviously, it's true.
And he didn't reject the Gnosticism. Like, I could clearly interpret that passage we read just now as world bad, soul essence can depart from world without dying. Congratulations.
A lot of this stuff is beyond belief, but just like Enoch, a mile tall guys. Well, if it's true, it's true. But to speak about it, to things that just seem just absolutely insanely crazy, they just can't do it. And you still can't do it today, even though the evidence is there. Typhon and Quetzalcoatl are showing those very clearly. I show these kind of things very clearly. My other ones are DNA tested, CAT scan parts of them and everything else, and it still won't be accepted. So that's why these ancient texts were pushed off to the side. They were too spectacular. That's the bottom line. All right, I'm going to leave it at this. But when I say everything is too spectacular, they think it makes everything into a spectacle, like it's just crazy people talking. But it's not. I know it sounds it. Look at the size of this, and that's not even as big as they were.
Look at the size of it. You got. Hold on. Come on, YouTube. Stop doing what you like to do. Why are you like this, YouTube? Hold on. I can fix it. Sort of. There we go. Now you can see it.
Book of Enoch debunked.
Yeah. 10 out of 10.
Why did he choose to show us a video which is debunking the Book of Enoch if he's using it as source material?
That's exactly what's going on in my head. And I'm like, did we warp to I don't understand this. I really don't understand this. It's like teaching a class and then being like, psych, this is all fake. What are you doing?
This is our bread and butter, Maya.
I feel like he just searched Enoch giants and then took the first things that he could see.
I feel like at this scale as well, I think the hair follicle would have to be a fair bit larger than it is.
Oh yeah, I think you're probably right about that. I think I'm like I look at something that tall, and then I look at the Empire State Building. That's already enough of a scale that my intuitions, I'm gonna stop trusting them about like half an order of magnitude ago. But you know, they're all I've got. So I'm looking at that, and I think that a hair follicle would be like one of the cables on, like the Golden Gate Bridge. Like, yeah, those are cables that are flexible, but they're cylinders of steel that are like this much in diameter that are just really long.
Chat wants you to turn the video down a bit.
Okay.
You should do some calculations, like figure out how like the proportion of hair follicle size to height, and then you could like calculate if somebody was that tall, how big would their hair follicle be?
Maybe it's an ear hair.
Yeah, but I don't know how to do math. Math is fake, and facts and science is a myth, and truth is a lie.
Or it's an eyebrow. Part of an eyebrow. like that crappy stuff that happens over here. Yeah.
I wonder if there are differences, like how different hair follicles are in size. Like, is it just the hair that's different in size, or is it the hair follicle?
I
don't know.
I don't actually know the exact distinction between what the follicle is. And
Well, he's talking about like the root of the hair, the part that's like under the skin.
They do.
That's more bulbous. Like I
Right.
can just look at that when I like rip out my hair,
Mm-hmm.
because you know
Uh,
I don't do that recently.
My question
what's
is like,
the little-
are thine vellus hairs have the same size roots as like larger hairs on your head?
I don't.
Here you go. I put it in private chat. Yeah. So the smallest diameters of the forehead are 66, whatever that measurement is. Someone
Microns?
sciencey tell me. Microns.
Is it mic?
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. So microns
So-
are.
Yeah, from Niddy.
The
my
ram-
my
Go on.
speed Google.
Speed Google.
So to scale, do you think that's about right?
Yeah, I do. Like,
Yeah, totally.
Well, no, because I use actually that measurement. I say that like I make and image and use atomic clouds and stuff that are on the order at their smaller end of 100 microns, and that's the width of a average to some approximation human hair. Like a thick human hair is like 100 microns wide, and you can see it. So you would be able to see the stuff that I like do with the ultra cold atoms and stuff, if it was illuminated correctly. I have a lot of things in my ears.
So, for fun, I multiplied 66 micrometers
Oh wait, no, that was
or
tight.
whatever
Sorry.
times 4,500, and I got 279,000. And if you convert that to feet, it's 0.9. So is that follicle big enough for a 3/4 of a foot hair?
No, it's not, and that's
Aw,
exactly that's like that big.
Maybe this was a baby giant.
Yeah, exactly, like what they
Oh.
had on the Ark.
Totes.
I'm sure they were much bigger than that. And here's the Empire State Building, and there's a guy. And here's the Great Pyramid of Giza. So, and this isn't even a mile tall. They claim Jesus was 96 miles tall.
Who's
they?
Like
I think
people in
the part that we
Palestine were
skipped.
like, we gotta crucify that.
I think the part of the video that we skipped must have had some important stuff about where this is all coming from.
I think that you are giving this man way too much
Way
credit.
too much credit. That was all the way at the beginning of the video.
All the way at the beginning, and keep in mind, we started watching 3 minutes and 42 seconds, and until just now when I pointed that out, I don't think anybody in chat noticed, because it was a nice, clean, fresh intro that did not discuss watch.
Okay, my outstanding friends, this is like...
That is what was happening at 3 minutes and 42
3 minutes
seconds. because all of this that we went through is, well, I mean, okay, you're right. For the record, you were right, by the way. On screen, what your point and my point, Maya, was just demonstrated to be wrong, and Peter was 100% right that, yes, there was hidden stuff demonstrated in this portion of the video. But, you know, we're trying to do our audience a favor. And
All right,
now, if somebody were actually 96 miles tall, I've looked it up, and they would be in the ionosphere of the atmosphere, which I'm guessing probably does not have a lot of good stuff to breathe in it.
Well, okay, yeah, but I mean, what are you, some kind of physicist
I feel like
or something?
you'd also have like a lot of solar radiation would hit you, so like the top of your head would get very sunburnt if you were that tall.
But that's
That
just the
you would-
glowing visage of the Holy One.
Yeah, that you would just immediately suffocate. Even for the record, if you were able to breathe at sea level in 100% oxygen, square cube law, you're not going to be able to inhale enough.
Yeah.
Giant 96-mile tall.
Support
We're not starting from the
Now it's
beginning.
time to start investigating them more.
Maya, if I'm going to cause you a stroke like that, I'm going to make sure to have OBS up and recording. Well, I guess YouTube's doing that.
More substantial way. All right, there's been many years of this, and it's just total denial from the people that are speaking about history and all of these, making all these claims.
Shocker.
Claims are fine. I have no problem with that, but I need to be able to address those claims with my claims. That's all I'm asking for. All right, I love you all. Let's see if we can get some claim-to-claim stuff going on. All right, I love you. Bye.
Look,
Oh my God.
that was an outro. That was a
Yeah.
5-second outro. It wasn't nothing. It was a 5-second outro.
Last time we did Rodger, he decided, apropos of absolutely nothing, that there was like giants in Venus or some shit. Like, it was weird. Do you remember that? We gave the entire chat whiplash.
As one does.
God, Rodger. Okay.
Rodger is like the bread and butter of this channel.
You really like Rodger. I really thought you were going to ask him to come on today.
It would be so hard to get like anywhere in a discussion with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, no offense, Maya, but if I were going to do that, I would probably do it one-on-one. Because...
Wait, just let me stream it for my channel.
100%. We can record it.
I will be all up in the background with my popcorn, talking
but-
shit in the chat where I belong.
Yup. Yeah, but there's going to be a solid chunk where people are like, why is Weasel engaging for the last 30 minutes in this nonsense? And it's because I'm trying to guide him slowly, circuitously, towards maybe elucidating some type of useful to display contradiction.
Half of our viewers, at least, watched Grayson talk to Fladzoid for almost 2 hours.
Well,
they can bear with you through an hour of Rodger.
Did they watch Grayson and I debate Latter-day Saints and Mike?
Not if they wanted to stay emotionally well.
Flattered.
It's a good name. It's a 10 out of 10 name, right? Like, That being said, Mormons believe that you get your own planet, like, and stuff when you die if you're a good.
You get to be God.
You,
It's a great deal.
it's
So are Mormons like religiously then committed to having to believe in like a globe Earth?
yeah, you would think.
To calculate their
Latter-day
missionary
Saints doesn't
journeys,
seem
yeah.
to be, if assuming that Latter-day Saints is actually. It
If
didn't come up. It didn't come up in the debate with him.
Because like if you have a planet
Yes.
kind of has to be round.
Everyone knows what's up. All
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
Like it does, but not like necessarily on the surface level. Sorry.
Here we got a real Dr. Tapioca Weasel up in the corner here.
I don't know who that is. Never heard of him.
I've just been imposting you for like the last like 20 minutes.
I had no. See this. I pay a lot of attention to the sound of my own voice. It's fantastic, right?
All right. So what do we got going here? New Dr. T. Who are you? Where are you? And where does everybody find you if they want to get that quality, that sweet, sweet quality content?
Yeah. If you could link Dr. Tapioca Weasel's profile right now, that'd be great. Thanks.
It's your show. Go. Peter, it's you. Chill.
Yeah, Peter, you're big. Chill.
All right. Yeah, you can go check out my channel. It's called Paleologos YT. And you can also check me out on the New Creation blog at newcreation.blog and check out some of the articles I've written.
All right. Do you have anything coming up anytime soon ever?
I have some articles. I have a Thanksgiving article that I have to work on. And I have another article about Lucy's knee. It is like the definitive article about the whole claim that Lucy's knee was found miles away from the rest of her skeleton.
We to be clear, we agree. By the way, everybody on screen agrees on the things he's saying about Lucy in this context, except for the related to humans thing. Maybe disagree about that, but Peter is very good about debunking pervasive and problematic beliefs in creationism.
So maybe you can so once upon a time God created the whole world and everything was created according to its kind. People are too stupid to understand what a kind is. Got all that. Now, hey, look, follow me. You're answering questions I did not ask. Why is not God still creating things? Like, why are we not seeing things being created out of nothing? I need to know this.
I would say because there's a certain like order to this. God intentionally wanted to create things for a specific amount of time and then have things unfold from that original creation, right? And by doing so, he basically kind of structured the organization of time since then. For example, in creating things over the period of a 7-day span, he initiates. Well, it's a creation week though, so he rests after that. So I like to talk about the 7th day because that's something a lot of creationists often overlook as well.
It's important to a healthy work cycle.
Yeah. My point is, by doing that, God sets up some sort of order to creation. And personally, I don't understand why exactly God would need to continue to make things, right? Because he's made things such that they can adapt through time. They can procreate. So there doesn't really seem to be necessity for him to continually create new things, I guess.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I completely answered your question, but
no. I'm just trying to figure out how things work in your head because I've never gotten to like talk to a young Earth creationist, and so what I get is like people like I hear things from like Vice Rhino, Apologia, and they make you seem like really, really, really silly, and I can't tell if you're being steel manned or straw manned. So I really just want to know, and also. I'm a psych major, so like figuring out like why people think what they think is like kind of my ish. And I'm not doing a gotcha. I already promised Tap that I am not doing like the whole debate bro thing. I'm not pushing back. He pushed back. I promised I wouldn't push back. I have not pushed back, but I have questions because I don't
I was a
understand.
lot
No,
more
yeah,
pushy
that's
earlier,
good.
but- Are we still live?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted
Real
to
quick,
keep that in
real quick.
mind.
Okay, so why a young Earth? Like, I really need to know that. Like, why does there have to be a young Earth? Why can't the Earth be old? Like, if you found out that the evil atheists were right, and let's just say God created the Earth old,
Or William
you
Lane
know?
Craig is right.
Right? Like, why can't the Earth be 4 billion years, 4.5 or 6 billion years old? Like, why can't God have set that in motion?
Mhm.
Would that like just really fuck with kinds and everything would unravel from there? Or
I think there's a number of different problems with this, with thinking that God created the earth over long periods of time. And I think the first is that that causes a lot of theological problems which impact the very heart of the Bible's meaning in terms of the origin of sin, right? Because the Bible introduces animals as eating vegetation originally, and as humans not being able to die because they're eating of the tree of life. And so there's this original good creation that doesn't contain sin or death. And so once you go into this perspective of the earth being hundreds and million, how exactly old? It's like 4 billion years old. Anyway, the point
4.54.
4.5. Yes. You basically have to assume then that death has already entered the world before humans have ever entered the world, and that humans have been dying for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years before they ever actually sin, depending on where you actually place the first humans, because there's some disagreement. William Lane Craig will place it at a different place than some of the other old earth apologists, for example.
okay, so the Earth cannot be old because of biblical inerrancy is pretty much what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying is that if the earth is old, it undermines the entire point of the Bible, right? So if you're coming at this with the assumption that the Bible is true, the best explanation for that is that the earth is young, because that because that explains the narrative of the Bible and makes sense in terms of how exactly sin came into the world and how exactly it will be removed from the world.
And then our
really
question
quick.
is, are you coming with that assumption? Are you
Well,
coming with
yeah,
the
I
assumption
think
that the
that's kind
Bible is
of
true?
what
I think
that's kind of what the question was, coming from that assumption in the first place. Yeah.
Crystallize it.
Right. I mean, I assume that, but thank you for clearing it up. I do have one more question, and then there's a question from the chat. If I'm sorry if I'm not keeping you too long, because I think we said 2 hours and it's been almost 3. All right. So, holy shit. All right, let me do this and then it'll come to me. I'm sorry. ADHD brain. Sydney Raptor, sorry. Said you skipped straight to day 7. My biggest question is how or why did God create light 3 days before light source?
Yeah. Well, what's being talked about there is where God says, "Let there be light," and light appears, and that is on the first day of creation. And obviously, light, or the actual light-giving objects that we see today, such as the sun and the moon and the stars, don't come about until the 4th day. Now, why exactly did God do that? I mean, the most obvious explanation is that he wanted to have there be light so that he could create plants on the 3rd day, such that there was light available for the plants to grow. Now, why exactly does he create light before he creates the sun, moon, and stars? I think that might have to do something with the context of the ancient Near East, where the sun and the moon are worshipped, and he's showing that he is the source of light in terms of in terms of God being a source of supernatural light, and pointing out that he can make light without the sun, and therefore the sun being a being that he has created, and therefore he's basically showing his supremacy over this, and that it is not the sun ultimately which is giving light, but he can give light without the sun. And that's kind of how I would interpret that, I guess.
Also, I will say...
Okay, and then my last one. Why does everything look billions of years old?
Does it?
Dude, yes, it does. It just
I would say there are
Peter.
certain pieces of evidence which do point to billions of years of radiometric decay, for example, but I think that there are alternative evidences that point to there being a young Earth. So I would say
So you think
that
our science is bad, and that's why everything looks billions of years old?
I guess it depends what you mean by bad. Given what we currently know about the laws of radiometric decay, it makes perfect sense, right? Yeah. And so I'm saying that there are pieces of evidence which are in contradiction with each other, and that we have to come to a conclusion with contradictory pieces of evidence.
What do you think is the best evidence, non-biblically, non-theologically, for an age of the Earth in the 6,000 year rough time? I'm not saying you need to identify an exact age, although you know there would be an argument for that. Like you should be able to figure it out, right? Anyway, what do you think the best evidence in that is supported by mainstream science?
That you mean? You're saying a piece of evidence that mainstream science accepts that proves a young Earth? Or that gives a date for an Earth around 6,000 years?
Or a piece... Probably not that they accept... Where did that go away? Probably not that they would accept, but that they would, like, follow. Because, for example...
I can give you an example here.
Polonium halos would be an example.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a great one, but I think it's an interesting one.
Yeah, so the example I'll give is recently Is Genesis History, which is the parent company for the New Creation blog, released a movie called Mountains After the Flood. And basically in it, they explore the work of Dr. Andrew Snelling, who basically looks at faults within the Grand Canyon, and he's done sampling there. And what's happening there appears to have been rock folds, and these rock folds are bent. And there's been various hypotheses about how exactly that could have occurred. And generally, the secular community wanted to argue that these rocks aren't metamorphosized, which means that they haven't experienced heat and pressure, which can usually bend rocks. So these are unmetamorphosized rocks, and yet they're somehow bent. So the question is, how did they all bend? Because this sequence of rocks covers hundreds of millions of years. And generally then, after we knew they weren't metamorphic, the response was, well, maybe just over very, very slow amounts of time, the actual crystal grains in the rock can realign themselves such that you can produce bending, because it's very, very slowly folding over time. So even though the rock is solid, it can very slowly bend over time. Except that now Dr. Andrew Snelling has actually gone and collected samples from those rocks, and what he found is that the crystal grains are not bent in that position relative to one another. And what this all indicates then is that these rocks...
I need a diagram at this point. For the record, I need a diagram to follow the logic, but yes.
So what this indicates anyway is that these rocks bent while they were still soft. And that indicates that hundreds of millions of years did not pass between the deposition of the lower and the upper layers in the sequence. And that's one example of a piece of evidence that I think could support a young Earth.
Okay.
Niddy? Questions?
I mean, from my old Earth Christian self, what we kind of did would be we had to answer that same question, right? Light happens over here, day night's over here. What the budge, right? Like, how does this work? There's like several different methods hermeneutically that you can try, or what is it, theologically, that you could try to dance around this or work with the text in order to get to some tenable interpretation that can allow for the creation narrative to not be 6 literal 24-hour days. That's basically the goal, I guess, of looking at these other theological models. One is just a straight up like allegorical model where you can just go bit, like it's all some kind of like stringent metaphor. The other is orders and fulfillment. So the first 3 days are creating the kind of buckets or categories or arenas, which the second set of days fill. Right. So day 1, light. Day 4, the things that bring light. Day 2, water. Day 5, things that go in the water. Day 6, what is it? Like I can't remember. Day 3, sorry. Anyway, you get the point. So that's one way to try and work through it. The other is like a day age interpretation where you're allowed to separate. Hey, don't ask me how. You're allowed to separate verse 1, Genesis 1:1, from the rest of the chapter as if it's some introductory piece, which there's a whole bunch of debate.
But there's a whole
Right.
space. There's a
Hey,
whole
hey, hey.
space between the thing, right?
And to be
Verse 1 and
clear,
verse 2.
I don't think that Christians need to be exclusively young Earth creationists.
Right.
Oh,
I'm not going
right.
to doubt somebody's salvation because they're not a young Earth creationist. But I think that once you give away young Earth creationism, that often does lead to walking away from the faith because it compromises some of the very important parts of the Bible. Doesn't mean you can't be a Christian, but if you go down that route, it has some theological implications that lead you away from Christianity.
You know, I struggled with this as a Christian, not because I leaned young Earth. It's like I thought the evidence was just incontrovertible, that uncontroversial, that way it's old. But however, I did have a rather fundamentalist, stricter interpretation of Romans chapter 5, which constructs the narrative that Peter is giving to you, that sin enters the world through one man, i.e. his failure to give Eve God's word. Anyway, it's really his fault. And his disobedience led to all falling and getting sin, but through the obedience and work of Jesus Christ, all men are redeemed. So it's like the gate can open backwards as it opened forwards, and disseminating sin and taking that sin away.
So
the
are
only
you a
way you
Christian?
can... No.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you're talking about how you were a Christian. I didn't think you were a Christian, but you said something, and I was like, okay.
I've confused Peter. Stream over. I win.
Where
Titan has
properly is helpful.
Titan has a question real quick.
How old is the Grand Canyon? Yeah, so the Grand Canyon, basically, as I understand it, appears to have formed in the post-flood era, and that's mainly because they have found evidence of lakes upstream from the Grand Canyon, and they found that there are these gigantic lakes that once existed there, and these lakes may have formed after the flood as the water was running off. Water basically got caught in these kind of areas where there were basins. And there appears to have been a dam burst that caused the water to let go from these lakes, which eroded out the Grand Canyon. And that's an interpretation that even some secular geologists are beginning to move towards, away from the idea that the Colorado slowly carved the Grand Canyon as well.
Over a time scale of like a single or maybe double-digit number of years, or even smaller than that. Because
over a fairly small amount of time, because there's multiple lakes, I think, that are connected together that are believed to have drained and caused it, and
it would have to be a lot, because if you imagine I guess you have to account for uplift in some non-trivial way, but if it's eroded from the top, at some point, some stuff was vaguely at that height, and if you just fill up the whole Grand Canyon, it's a large volume of water. Like, it's already a decently sized lake, right? So, but there are similar things like to the north of like giant glacier basins or whatever that drained rapidly.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat said there's no evidence from sedimentology that it was ever a deep lake. Well, I've actually talked with some of the scientists who are doing this work out in the field, and they actually have found evidence of shorelines where you can see that there's regressive shorelines on the edges of these basins where they can actually see where the water level was. And as the water level went down, you can actually see different levels where there were shores as the water moved up and down. So there is evidence by which you can tell how deep the lake is.
We've been going for like almost 3 hours.
Yeah, I was going to shut it down in a couple of minutes. I'm like, I shut Dapper down around this time, so.
Yeah. This is.
Chat, I mean, but I don't know. Like, you're having fun, and chat was having fun. I was like, well, I can get out 2 or 3 questions, and you won't shut the fuck up, though.
Me? Yeah, no, I'm bad at it. I don't know how.
Yeah, you're just like, well, what about this? What about this? And I'm like, you've had 3 hours with the boy. And I, true to form, have not challenged him. I just had a couple of questions. However,
that was Peter. You do so well around us goofballs. I mean, some people are pretty blasphemous and probably frustrating in the chat, but like the way you guys interact tonight, man, I gotta just.
Well, it's been fun interacting with you all.
Most of the believers have been great tonight. One had to get timed out, but I told the mods, I did what I could, and after that, people just bring things on themselves. But Niddy, since you're here, who are you? Where are you? What do you have coming up this week?
I'm Niddy, formerly known as Niddy, the animated atheist. Now I'm just Niddy. You can go check me out at _Niddy_ I think, or at whatever. I don't remember my YouTube tag.
Are you still Nidymos?
Pragmatic Crystal's on it. People can call me Nidymos. I don't care. That. And so I do critiques of my former culty-ass church, and I pull no punches. I kick him in the teeth, and it's great. I talk about sometimes goofy apologists, sometimes, the upper echelon of the apologists making millions and how frustrated I get with them at certain points. And then sometimes people come on and chat with me, disagree with me a little bit, or we just, shoot the shit. But that usually happens after I banter for a while. But it's a good time over there. And I try to remember the Bible as much as I can, as faithfully as I can, and because I still love it in a lot of ways. And that's it. So I'll do a stream sometime this week on something. I don't know.
Yeah, we're glad you're back. I know you took a little bit of a hiatus, but
yeah.
The community loves you.
Thanks.
All right, and so it's been about 3 hours. I'm gonna let everybody get out of here, get some sleep, and come back and terrorize the internet tomorrow. Peter, again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Happy birthday, and
yes,
we'll see everybody else later.
Happy birthday, Weasel.
Bye.